Chapter 23:31 Choosing the Right Person. Xiao Mu felt an incredible sense of defeat. He had already unleashed 5 strikes, which was at no small cost to himself. And now, he had only enough strength to launch one last strike of the 9 slashes of the heavenly demon. However, at present, the 5th strike was still unable to get the job done. Would the 6th strike make any difference? Previously he was defeated at the hands of Futian. Now, facing the cultivators from the Lost Clan, he was not faring any better. This was totally different from what he had in mind. He came from the Devil world and a direct disciple of the Devil Emperor himself. His cultivation was so tremendous that he thought no one could compete across all major worlds. But after coming to the original realm, he had tasted nothing but frustration. He was defeated right off the bat in the first battle by Futian, who was an entire realm lower than him. In both battles that he had participated in after arriving in the original realm, Xiao Mu seemed to realize just how big the world really was and how many outstanding figures there were in the world. The Lost Clan that appeared during the changes taking place in the original realm was a good example. None of their cultivators were any less when battling the top figures in this world. Above the firmament, the 9 powerful cultivators from the Lost Clan put their hands together. A divine light bloomed at their brow chakras, turning into thousands of divine shadows. It was as if they were the ancient gods who were as solid as a rock. They had transformed their incomparably resilient spiritual will in combination with the bodies of the Great Path, and forged this body of the ancient god. The bodies of many ancient gods resonated and merged into one, turning this space into a rock domain, like a domain belonging to the deities. It was as indestructible as the will of the Lost Clan. Futian was not the only one who felt the immensity of that power. Even others realized that those 9 cultivators, who were as strong as Xiao Mu, still couldn't break down defenses such as this one. The cultivators from the Lost Clan were experts at constructing defense, so much so that this defensive force could not be destroyed at all. Even the 9 cultivators on the battlefield realized it themselves. Even so, they didn't give up. The great path on their bodies roared as an extraordinary power burst forth. Xiao Mu, likewise, unleashed the 6th strike and the 9 slashes of the heavenly demon in concert with the rest of the cultivators. The attack this time was several times stronger than the previous ones. When the attack landed, the divine shadows that had filled the heavens shook violently, and some of them were shattered. Obviously, this extremely powerful attack could shake up the battle matrix of the rocks to some extent. However, the outcome remained the same. The shapes of those 9 cultivators from the Lost Clan were shaken a bit but remained as unmoving as a rock. Their physical bodies and spiritual will were integrated and were in perfect harmony with heaven and earth. Their spiritual will was as firm as a rock, and their physical bodies were deeply rooted in the earth. This was the true essence of the battle matrix of the rocks. It was as the ancestors had intended when they created it. This was the only way that Xi continent could be protected despite the darkness, and continue its survival in the world. As Futian observed this power from the battle matrix of the rocks, he could clearly perceive the firmness of the will from these cultivators. He could see how the cultivators from the Lost Clan were able to survive these countless years, wandering through the dark world on the Xi continent. They had turned their own bodies into rock to protect the continent from destruction. At this moment, there was more credence in what the cultivator from the Lost Clan had told them. This was certainly a clan worthy of great respect and friendship, and definitely not as an enemy. Excellent. Cultivators such as Emperor Nan and the others also realized this, and let out an emotional remark. How determined would they need to be to shuttle through these endless years in the darkness like this? They had forged rocks out of flesh and blood to protect the Xi continent. This could not be achieved without a certain degree of conviction. It was precisely on account of their steadfast belief that they were able to explode with such terrifying combative power. Even the one as great as Xiao Mu, the Devil Emperor's own direct disciple, had no way of defeating them. Their spirit was simply awe-inspiring. On the battlefield, Xiao Mu and the other 9 cultivators were discouraged and frustrated. They knew they had been defeated, and it was impossible to break this defense. It was not just a matter of Xiao Mu and the others. The result would be the same with another set of 9 cultivators. Perhaps if there were 9 people at the same level as Xiao Mu, they might have a chance to destroy the battle matrix of the rocks. But how strong of a force would be required then? Everyone, please exit. The battle matrix of the rocks opened up and a passageway appeared, allowing Xiao Mu and his party to leave. Both sides understood that the outcome couldn't be clearer, so there was no point in continuing the fight. Impressive. Xiao Mu's eyes were pitch black as he looked at the cultivator from the Lost Clan. He then exited the bounds of the battle matrix of the rocks and returned to the camp that belonged to the Devil World. The other cultivators followed his lead and returned to camp with him, disturbed to their core. This battle was not your fault. Few would be able to break this battle matrix, an elder from the Devil World said to Xiao Mu. Even though he was watching the battle from the sidelines, he could sense the power exuded from the battle matrix of the rocks. But it didn't make Xiao Mu feel any better. Defeat was defeat. No amount of excuses could explain that away. It's a great feat for you to be able to shake the battle matrix of the rocks like this. The battle matrix of the rocks forged by the 9 of them requires the full eruption of their spiritual will and physical strength to the extreme to render the battle matrix indestructible. You have done very well already. At this time, the old man from the Lost Clan spoke up, perhaps wanting to comfort them. However, from his words, one could detect the Lost Clan's strong faith in the battle matrix of the rocks. The power of the Great Path integrated spiritual will and physical strength. The ultimate power that erupted from it was then used to form this unbreakable battle matrix. For countless years, generations of cultivators from the Lost Clan had protected the Shin'i continent by relying on superior defenses such as the battle matrix of the rocks. Furthermore, this was not yet the ultimate configuration in the battle matrix of the rocks. Would there be anyone in the Renhuang 8th realm who wants to give it a try? The old man from the Lost Clan asked as he surveyed the cultivators from all forces. At this moment, those whose cultivation was at the very top were impatient, as if they were all eager to see just how strong was this battle matrix of the rocks, and if they could destroy it. I'll try. At this moment, another cultivator came forward. This was someone from Divine Prefecture. When this man appeared, many cultivators from Divine Prefecture sat up and took notice. Obviously, many cultivators knew who the man was. Clad in white, this man was stunningly handsome. Just standing there, he seemed to be one with the Great Path, emitting an air of celestial detachment. After the Renhuang in white walked forward, he glanced at the 9 cultivators from the Lost Clan and then at the cultivators from Divine Prefecture. Someone else walked out as if wanting to give it a try. However, the Renhuang in white saw him walked out and said instead, "If you want to try it, try in the next round." The Renhuang at the receiving end of this remark frowned. The man's words were so impolite they were bordering on rude. However, the Renhuang in white didn't seem to care at all. He looked at all the cultivators from Divine Prefecture and said, "The Lost Clan's battle matrix of the rocks is indestructible, but all the principalities of Divine Prefecture are here as well, so how can there be battle matrices that cannot be broken? Therefore, I would like to invite some others from Divine Prefecture to break the battle matrix of the rocks with me." His meaning couldn't be clearer. He wanted to pick his allies, and that cultivator who had walked out was not considered suitable. In his opinion, the man was not worthy of fighting side by side with him. The various cultivators all looked at the person who had spoken. He clearly wanted to break through the battle matrix of the rocks for him to have stepped forward. He also wanted to select people to follow him to break through the matrix. Obviously, he placed great importance in the battle matrix of the rocks, and his true colors were showing. This cultivator was from the ancient god clan of the Nantian domain in the Divine Prefecture. He was in existence with exceptional ability. He turned down the cultivators who had proactively stepped forward just now. He believed that the other party was unworthy of standing side by side with him in battle. If that were the case, the people that he wanted to select would certainly be figures of the same level as him. Was he planning to choose the most brilliant figures of the Divine Prefecture to follow him into battle? If so, it was indeed possible for them to break through the battle matrix of the rocks. Among the cultivators here today, the lineup of cultivators from the Divine Prefecture was indeed the strongest. After all, in name, The original realm was still under the rule of the Donghuang Imperial Palace of the Divine Prefecture. The top forces of the 18 domains in the Divine Prefecture had all come here, including the domain chief's manors as well as the ancient god clan. Hence, it was possible to choose 9 of the finest 8th Renhuangs from among the various forces of the 18 domains. The white-robed cultivator's gaze shifted in a different direction. In that direction, a group of figures was radiating with golden divine halos. They were dazzling to behold, but their appearances were not outstanding. They quietly stood there, but they gave off an unshakable vibe. The temperament of these people was even similar to that of the 9 great cultivators of the Lost Clan. The gazes of many cultivators also turned to look in that direction. Futian and the cultivators of the Heavenly Mandate Academy were not familiar with the top forces of the Divine Prefecture. However, in the Divine Prefecture, many forces knew something about each other. When they saw this group of people, many cultivators from the top forces of the Divine Prefecture knew their identity. They were from the strongest force from the Vajra domain of the 18 domains in the Divine Prefecture. They were also part of the ancient god clan and had inherited the teachings of a great emperor. When they saw the gaze of the white-robed youth, a cultivator from among this force walked out. He seemed to understand the intention in the other party's gaze. The skin of this cultivator appeared golden. His eyes shone with a sharp, golden divine light. He looked at the white-robed cultivator and said, "If that is the case, let us experience the battle matrix of the rocks of the Lost Clan together." The white-robed cultivator nodded his head slightly. He shifted his gaze again and looked in another direction. This time, he looked towards the cultivators of a top force from the Yuanshi domain. Similarly, a cultivator immediately walked out from there. This time, the cultivator who emerged seemed older and gave off an otherworldly air. However, no one dared to underestimate him. The cultivators from the Dark World, the Devil World, the Human Realm as well as the other worlds watched all of this quietly. They all realized that the Divine Prefecture was preparing to send their strongest lineup into battle. Among the 8th Renhuangs, even though they might not be the strongest group, they would definitely be considered the finest. They were adamant about breaking through the battle matrix of the rocks. Right now, even the cultivators of the Lost Clan had serious expressions. They seemed to have realized the resolve of the other party. Although they were confident in the battle matrix of the rocks, they did not dare underestimate this group. Each cultivator who stepped forward made the cultivators of the Lost Clan feel slightly pressured. Any one of them could prove a match for Xiao Mu. After that, the gaze of the white-robed cultivator continued to wander among the crowd. More and more people emerged. Not long after, 7 cultivators had stepped forward. Including the white-robed youth himself, there were 8 powerful cultivators. When some of the forces of the Divine Prefecture saw these 8 powerful cultivators, they had serious looks. If such a lineup could not break through the battle matrix of the rocks, it would most likely be impossible for the other cultivators of the Divine Prefecture to do so. There was still one more candidate to be chosen. Who would he choose? The white-robed cultivator's gaze landed in one direction. The various cultivators followed his gaze. Many of them revealed strange expressions when they saw where he was looking. He was actually looking in the direction where the cultivators of the Heavenly Mandate Academy were. The person that he was looking at was similarly clad in white robes. His hair was also white like his robes, and he appeared extremely handsome. Him? Many people revealed strange looks. His cultivation was only at the 7th tier. For the final candidate, this monstrous figure of the Nantian domain had actually chosen him? "I have heard that you are the top monstrous figure of the original realm. Would you be willing to join us in battle?" asked the white-robed youth. As expected, he was officially extending an invitation to this person. The final candidate he had chosen was Futian. This also surprised Futian. His cultivation was only at the 7th Renhuang plane. The people that the other party had chosen before this were all 8th Renhuangs. He could not figure out why the white-robed cultivator had chosen him as the last candidate. However, he naturally knew that his own combat ability was sufficiently powerful. At the very least, he would not hold them back. After all, not long ago, he had defeated an 8th demonic emperor, and one of the direct disciples of the Devil Emperor, Xiao Mu. Hence, he was certainly qualified to join the battle. "Isn't it a little rash for him to be the 9th candidate?" said a cultivator who had stepped forward before this. Although he also knew that Yi Futian was the top monstrous figure of the original realm, he was still a 7th tier Renhuang. If Yi Futian was also an 8th tier Renhuang like them, inviting him to join the battle was unquestionable. However, given that he was a 7th tier Renhuang, he seemed to be out of place. The 8 of them who came forward were all prominent figures renowned far and wide. It was not just in a city or a domain, even in the entire Divine Prefecture, they were still monstrous figures who stood at the peak. If the 7th tier Yi Futian were to join them in battle, he would be a misfit. "I believe in Renhuang Ye's ability," said the white-robed cultivator. His temperament was otherworldly. He was still looking at Yi Futian, seemingly awaiting Yi Futian's answer. Yi Futian contemplated this as he looked at the other party. After a short while in deep thought, he then nodded his head and said, "All right." As he said this, he stepped forward. He also wanted to experience how powerful the battle matrix of the rocks was. With their current lineup, Yi Futian realized that it might truly be possible to break through the battle matrix of the rocks. Even without him, the possibility of doing so was still the same. Since it was so, there was no harm in him participating. He stepped forward, and immediately the gazes of the group from the Divine Prefecture landed on him. The other 7 powerful cultivators were naturally curious towards the top monstrous figure of the original realm. As a 7th tier Renhuang, he actually came forward to join the 8 of them in battle. All around them, the cultivators of the various forces of the Divine Prefecture looked towards the battlefield. They glanced across the 9 cultivators. Every one of them was a prominent monstrous figure. They would certainly develop and become the group of people that stood at the very top of the Divine Prefecture. They might even control a top force and gain great authority in the future. This group of people had joined forces to challenge the cultivators of the Lost Clan and break through the battle matrix of the rocks. With this lineup, could they break through it? Chapter 2333 Practicing Faith. The 8 cultivators from the ancient god clan included the heir of Haotian the Great from the Haotian clan of the Nantian domain, the successor of the Vajra region of the Vajra domain, the heir of Yuanshi the Great from the Yuanshi domain, and the successor of West Imperial Palace from the West Sea domain. Together with Yi Futian, they formed a super-powerful lineup. Their mission was to break through the battle matrix of the rocks set up by the Lost Clan. All the other cultivators put on serious expressions. They were full of anticipation and were eager to witness the battle. The cultivators from the Divine Prefecture were especially excited about this battle. This lineup was terrifying. The cultivators chosen to join the battle were definitely the strongest ones among all the 8th tier Renhuangs. Their abilities went without question. Yi Futian was the only 7th tier Renhuang in the team. However, based on his glorious record, the crowd speculated that even though he was only at the 7th tier, his combat ability would most likely not be any weaker than that of those monstrous 8th tier figures. The crowd here had yet to hear about Yi Futian defeating Xiao Mu, a disciple of the Devil Emperor. Many of the cultivators here had long arrived on this continent. The cultivators from the Devil World arrived in the original realm much later. Besides that, they only came to this continent after Xiao Mu was defeated by Yi Futian. If the crowd had heard of the news, they would not have any doubts about Yi Futian's combat ability at all. As the top monstrous figure who had defeated a direct disciple of the Devil Emperor, Yi Futian showed no sign of inferiority when standing among this powerful lineup. The white-robed cultivator who invited the rest to join the team was Hua Junlai from the Haotian clan of the Nantian domain. The Haotian clan was part of the ancient god clan. They received an inheritance from Haotian the Great. Hua Junlai was the heir of the great emperor. His name was renowned far and wide in the Nantian domain. He was definitely a leader. Moreover, he showed an understanding of the top forces from various domains. Otherwise, he wouldn't have directly invited the cultivators from the ancient god clan of various domains to join him in battle. Aside from Yi Futian, the 8 powerful cultivators who were selected all had powerful backgrounds. Their families could be considered among the most terrifying forces in the Divine Prefecture. Members of the Lost Clan, let us begin. Hua Junlai greeted the 9 great cultivators of the Lost Clan. Then, an extremely powerful aura of the Great Path emanated from his figure. It was not just him. From other locations, frightening auras of the Great Path burst forth. The instant these auras of the Great Path radiated outwards, an intense rumbling of the Great Path could be heard, causing the surrounding space to tremble. Radiant divine light similarly shone from Yi Futian's divine body. The power of the Great Path inside his body roared. He swept a glance at the people around him. They stood at 9 different locations. Sensing the strength of their power, Yi Futian speculated that the battle matrix of the Lost Clan would most likely fall to them. It was completely different this time. The 9 people this time were all top monstrous existences. There was no discrepancy in their strength. Once all of them attacked at the same time, their power would be unparalleled. From his observation of the previous battle, the strength of the battle matrix of the rocks lay in the fact that 9 people acted as one. Even if one location was faced with the fiercest of attacks, the other parts of the matrix could instantly compensate and reach an equilibrium, ensuring that the battle matrix survived. However, if the entire battle matrix was attacked by the 9 great cultivators' most powerful attacks simultaneously, there was still a chance that it would be instantly shattered. Now, the 9 of them had the ability to do so. It was because of this that Yi Futian decided to join the fight. Since the result was already determined, and the Lost Clan would not prevent the rest of them from entering the space, it was convenient for him to occupy one of the 9 spots. This time, the 9 great cultivators of the Lost Clan had unprecedented, serious looks. They formed seals with their hands. Immediately, the sound of the Great Path could be heard. Illusory figures of ancient gods formed. They blocked out the sky and sealed off the space. Like before, the ancient gods were everywhere, sealing off this part of the sky. The 9 great cultivators were all trapped within the matrix. The Lost Clan immediately started the battle with the power that they had demonstrated in the latter part of the previous battle. From this, it was apparent that they took the cultivators from the Divine Prefecture seriously. "Everyone, how about we break it with one strike?" asked Hua Junlai. Since they wanted to break through the battle matrix of the rocks, it was meaningless to waste any more time. If they wanted to break through it, they might as well destroy it with one strike by unleashing absolute power. Trying to wear it down like the previous 9 people was meaningless. "Agreed," someone responded. Immediately, the unparalleled power of the Great Path gathered around the 9 of them. They were trapped in this vast space, yet judging from the brilliant imperial glories around them, one could still sense how powerful they were. A majestic and divine figure appeared behind Hua Junlai. It was the illusory figure of a great emperor. It was as though the great emperor himself had descended on earth. A shocking power erupted from Hua Junlai. His white robes fluttered while his long hair danced in the wind. He raised his arm, and the illusory figure of the great emperor followed suit. A gigantic palm instantly smashed towards the other party. The gigantic palm glowed brightly with divine light, and it caused the entire space to quake. It was as though the palm could directly shatter the space. At the same time, the cultivators who stood in different directions also unleashed their attacks. The successor of the Vajra region pointed at the sky. His finger kept expanding as though it was a finger of the god of the Vajra region. The finger was indestructible and could penetrate through all things. The cultivator from Yuanshi Palace waved his arm. Billions of swords of catastrophe immediately materialized in the sky. They lined up to form a mighty matrix of swords of catastrophe, and rained down like the wrath of a god. The other 5 cultivators also attacked. Each and every attack was overbearing. Yi Futian didn't stand idly too. A menacing aura burst forth from his body of the Great Path. His body transformed into swordsmanship. When he pointed a finger forward, countless divine swords in the heavens and the earth resonated and rang as sword will coalesce to form the fleeting divine sword. It then charged towards one of the illusory figures of the ancient gods summoned by the cultivators of the Lost Clan. All 9 of them attacked at the same time. In other places, very few could withstand any of their attacks. With all of them unleashing their attacks at once, how frightening would their collective power be? When the attacks landed on their targets, The shattering sound of pieces breaking apart could be heard. Cracks immediately appeared in the sealed space. Furthermore, the cracks kept propagating outwards. Then, the sealed space disintegrated. The figures of the ancient gods also exploded and turned to dust. The sky seemed to be collapsing. The matrix had been broken. The crowd felt their hearts tremble. As expected, even the sturdy battle matrix of the rocks could not withstand the attacks of the top 9 figures from the divine prefecture. The matrix was close to perfect in terms of defense. However, it was no match for these 9 cultivators. Every one of them was a top existence who could rule over a region. Futian had mixed feelings when he saw the sealed space collapsing. He was interested in testing out the battle matrix of the rocks, but actually, he was unwilling to become an enemy of the Lost Clan. He found the faith practiced by the cultivators of the Lost Clan admirable. Unfortunately, the cultivators from the divine prefecture were determined to succeed in this mission. They would not pass up on the chance of cultivating in the secret zone. They were willing to put together such a strong lineup to break through this grand matrix. Just when everyone else thought that the matrix had been broken, the elder of the Lost Clan had a calm expression. He sighed inside as he glanced at the 9 great cultivators of the Lost Clan. The next moment, the 9 great cultivators of the Lost Clan shut their eyes. Divine lights shot out from their glabellas and converged at the same point. A solemn sound of the great path echoed. The atmosphere of the vast space suddenly changed. Then, the crowd witnessed the shattered space coalesce once again. The battle matrix of the rocks was repairing itself. What was happening? The surrounding cultivators had puzzled expressions. Divine light shone brightly from the 9 great cultivators of the Lost Clan. Their flesh turned somewhat illusory, as though their entire beings were merging into this space of the great path. They transformed into ancient gods as their wills and spirits were pushed to their utmost limit. Futian's eyes narrowed when he heard the solemn sound of the great path. He turned his gaze towards the 9 great cultivators of the Lost Clan. A sense of uneasiness welled up inside of him. They were Futian suddenly thought of the faith held dear by the cultivators of the Lost Clan. They would transform their flesh into rocks and protect the continent. At this very moment, could it be that they were still practicing their faith? To the side, the various cultivators of the Lost Clan stood at different locations. Their expressions turned sullen when they saw the scene in the sky. Many of them put their hands together and bowed at the 9 great cultivators high above. The elder of the Lost Clan also looked in that direction. He secretly sighed. However, his gaze was extremely resolute. On the day they joined the Lost Clan, everything had been determined. The cultivators of the Lost Clan were all prepared to offer up their lives at any given moment. No matter what plane they had cultivated to, no matter what status they held, they were all prepared to put down their lives. This was the belief that they had held on to resolutely for countless years. It was the faith that was planted within their souls. It was because of this belief that the cultivators of the Lost Clan could set aside all other distractions and all cultivate to a high cultivation plane. Therefore, the overall ability of the cultivators of this continent was very powerful. Now, the Lost Clan had just emerged from the dark world. Yet they were faced with a new crisis. Cultivators from various worlds had come and intended to plunder everything that the Lost Clan had. Once the Lost Clan agreed to the cultivators' requests, their inheritance would be slowly corrupted. Then, the influence of the outsiders would gradually be strengthened across the entire Shani continent. Human greed knew no bounds. The Lost Clan did not believe that the other party would be satisfied and would leave the Lost Clan alone after they were granted access to cultivate in the cave. On the contrary, the other party would pillage the cave once they discovered the secrets of cultivation hidden within it. An even stronger urge to raid would well up in their hearts, driving them to take over the Lost Clan completely. If that were the case, even though the Lost Clan fought hard and escaped the Dark World, they would most likely be destroyed in the original realm. Sometimes, the hearts of humans were more terrifying than disasters looming in the dark. Hence, regardless of the price that they had to pay, the Lost Clan would not allow the cultivators from other worlds to seize control of the cave and cultivate there. To gain the cultivators' trust, the Lost Clan was willing to let the cultivators briefly check out the place. This was to achieve a state that would allow the Lost Clan to exist peacefully in the original realm. The Shin'i continent would become an independent continent like the other continents in the original realm. The Lost Clan would not lose in this battle. They could not afford to lose either. High above the sky of the battlefield, the vast space was sealed off by the 9 great cultivators of the Lost Clan. They transformed themselves into ancient gods and became one with the heavens and the earth. Futian and the rest stood within the space. They witnessed the battle matrix of the rocks take shape once again. This time, the matrix was even more menacing. Futian saw the figures of the ancient gods surrounding them. Divine light flowed around the ancient gods. The faces of the 9 great cultivators of the Lost Clan could be vaguely seen imprinted on the faces of the ancient gods. It was as though the 9 great cultivators had completely merged with the ancient gods. They had given up their consciousness, their self, and their flesh. Their entire being had become parts of the battle matrix of the rocks. Moreover, the way of rhythm twirled within the battle matrix of the rocks. Futian sensed the solemnity from the rhythm. Besides that, the rhythm contained a hint of sorrow, great courage, and the resolution to do and die. The 9 great cultivators were exhausting their lives as sacrifices to the battle matrix of the rocks. Their selfless act elevated the power of the matrix. This new battle matrix of the rocks grew more brilliantly, and was surrounded by divine light. Its beauty shocked all who saw it. The solemn way of rhythm played continuously, exerting a powerful pressure on the cultivators. Aside from Futian, other cultivators also noticed the changes that occurred to the battle matrix of the rocks. "Everyone, have you gone mad?" asked Hua Junlai, heir to the Haotian clan from the Nantian domain, as he looked at the 9 great cultivators of the Lost Clan. They were merging themselves into the battle matrix. If the battle matrix was shattered by attacks, the 9 great cultivators of the Lost Clan would perish on the spot and be killed. Their lives were on the line. They forged the battle matrix of the rocks with their own bodies of flesh and blood. There was no response. The unparalleled pressure persisted. The cultivators of the Lost Clan still did the same, and did not take the initiative to attack. They established the battle matrix of the rocks merely for defense. No matter how one looked at it, the Lost Clan appeared exceptionally friendly. They put themselves in a passive state of defending. When Hua Junlai and the others saw this scene, their expressions turned serious. He said, "If that is the case, we won't hold back." As he said this, the illusory figure of the great emperor shone even brighter. He extended his palm, and an astonishing power immediately surged into his palm. The other cultivators also amassed frightening auras of the Great Path. Divine wheels of the Great Path appeared. Even more alarming auras radiated from their figures. Only Futian did not gather up his power. He glanced at the various cultivators, and then looked in the direction of the members of the Lost Clan. He knew that if the battle matrix of the rocks were shattered, the 9 great cultivators of the Lost Clan would die on the spot. Since the Lost Clan chose to do so, their resolve was evident. They would not back down at all. They took a passive stance, but in reality it also displayed their resolve. They would not let the cultivators from the outside world enter the core region of the Lost Clan to cultivate. This point was evident from them offering up their lives to protect the battle matrix of the rocks. From the looks of it, the Lost Clan didn't really want the powers cultivated by other cultivators either. They purposely brought up this condition just now. If they managed to survive, then they would most likely give up this condition to give face to the various forces. Their act would hopefully cause the various forces to feel ashamed. Then, the 2 parties would have an opportunity to resolve their differences and let go of the matter of cultivating in the cave. Futian seemed to have understood the intentions of the Lost Clan. However, both sides were caught in a dilemma. The Lost Clan did not hesitate to pay such a high price to win this battle. Since it was so for this fight, it would also certainly be the same for the next. This time, the cultivators of the Divine Prefecture were the ones attacking. The top figures of the Dark World, the empty Divine Realm, and the human realm had yet to attack. There were also cultivators from other worlds as well. Under such circumstances, if the Lost Clan wanted to hold their ground and not surrender, how high of a price did they have to pay for it to be enough? How many top-tier cultivators of the Lost Clan needed to be sacrificed? When he thought about this, Futian felt somewhat hesitant. Would he attack and break the battle matrix of the rocks? If he did so, everything that the Lost Clan had done would be for naught. The 9 great cultivators would also perish on the spot. Before this, he had only joined the battle because he believed the battle matrix would certainly be broken. He had never imagined the determination of the Lost Clan would be so strong, and that this would be their trump card. Otherwise, he would not have participated in this battle. Just as Futian was contemplating this, the other cultivators had already begun to attack. The frenzied attacks of 8 powerful cultivators landed consecutively on the battle matrix of the rocks. Immediately, the sound of an astounding explosion could be heard. The entire space was trembling violently. The battle matrix of the rocks was also shaking, seemingly unstable. However, as the divine light circled it, it still did not shatter. The 9 great cultivators of the Lost Clan merged into the battle matrix and became ancient gods. They nodded their heads slightly and closed their eyes. They sat motionlessly there like statues. Right now, their lives were no longer their own. They only served to protect the battle matrix of the rocks as martyrs. As long as the matrix held up, they would survive. If it fell, they would fall with it. The matrix had not shattered. The various cultivators in the distance were somewhat uneasy when they saw this scene. As long as the matrix held up, the Lost Clan would survive. What sort of faith was this? If they wanted to break through the matrix, they had to kill the 9 great cultivators of the Lost Clan. The Lost Clan was ruthless. Chapter 23:35 No Compromise. Not only were the cultivators from the Lost Clan ruthless towards their enemies, but they were also ruthless towards themselves. They would risk their lives to protect their cultivation land. The cultivators from the top forces of the Divine Prefecture and other worlds doubted that they would ever endanger their own lives for the same cause. It was arduous for them to cultivate up until their current cultivation planes. Those who stood at the peak of the cultivation world would treasure their lives even more than others. At the very least, they would not simply do something that they knew for sure would cause them to perish. There were very few things that were worthy of them risking their lives to protect. Why didn't you attack? After the storm dissipated, the 8 powerful cultivators discovered that Futian hadn't attacked. He merely observed on the side while the rest of them attacked the battle matrix of the rocks. Futian's actions caused the others to be dissatisfied. The battle matrix of the rocks had transformed and was now stronger than before. Futian actually stood still while the rest attacked it. Did he have any intention to break through the matrix? Quite a few cultivators glared at Futian as they frowned. They had unhappy expressions on their faces. Clearly, they were irritated at Futian's actions. Since Futian wasn't attacking now, wouldn't he be gaining the opportunity to cultivate in the holy land of the Lost Clan without contributing anything if they managed to break through the battle matrix of the rocks later? If that was the case, what was the point of inviting him to be part of the team to break through the matrix? Futian explained. The battle matrix of the rocks has been upgraded. It will most likely not be simple to break through it. Even though all of us here are top cultivators, it is still difficult for us to break through the matrix. Judging from the current situation, the cultivators from the Lost Clan will surely perish if we succeed in breaking through it. Do we have to go so far for a spar? Futian suggested. Why don't we stop here? Let's forget about the agreement too. What do you think? After he said this, he turned towards the cultivators of the Lost Clan and said, I'm sure the Lost Clan will also agree to my suggestion, right? He hoped that both parties would forego this fight and end things here. The 9 cultivators of the Lost Clan had merged themselves into the battle matrix of the rocks. They were undoubtedly cruel to themselves. However, their resolute attitude would similarly provoke the ego of the cultivators from the Divine Prefecture. The cultivators from the Divine Prefecture would most likely fight until the very end to break through the matrix. Futian was worried that if both parties persisted in this battle, their animosity towards each other would go beyond the point of no return. The situation would only worsen from then on. It was not something Futian wanted to see. The 8 major factions of the ancient god clan have come together for this mission. Is there a matrix that we can't break through? Said someone coldly. The speaker cast a sideways glance at Futian as his annoyance towards him flared up. Not only did Futian refuse to attack, but he was also arrogant and intended to teach the rest of them how to proceed with the matter. Did Futian think that he was the only one with compassion? Since the Lost Clan insisted on fighting, the Ancient God Clan would naturally grant their wish. Even when faced with the upgraded battle matrix of the rocks, they would still forcefully break through it. The history of the Lost Clan was indeed admirable. The Ancient God Clan respected them for it, but they would go all out in battle when faced with such formidable opponents. The Ancient God Clan would not show them mercy. Of course, the most important point was that the formidable power demonstrated by the Lost Clan piqued their curiosity. They were even more determined to have a look inside the cave. When Futian heard the other party's response, he was certain that they would not give up on this battle. Moreover, the other party regarded the 8 of them as the representatives of the 8 major factions of the Ancient God Clan, essentially excluding him from the lineup. The speaker ignored Futian's existence, and claimed that even with only the 8 of them, they would still be able to break through the battle matrix of the rocks. The cultivators of the Lost Clan also heard this conversation. Outside the battlefield, the elder of the Lost Clan glanced at Futian with a shocked expression. It seemed like this Futian was siding with their Lost Clan. Moreover, based on what he had said just now, the elder guessed that Futian had understood his intention. Actually, the Lost Clan had no desire to obtain the techniques cultivated by the cultivators from the other worlds. Since the rest of them are not willing to compromise, Huan Yi doesn't need to advise them anymore, said the elder of the Lost Clan. Hua Junlai cast a glance at the elder. Then, he said, "Let us continue." After he said this, the 8 powerful cultivators once again amassed a strong force. At this moment, on the battlefield, there seemed to be a real halo of the great Emperor shining. The 8 powerful cultivators were all, without exception, the successors of the Ancient God Clan. Their families had inheritances of the great emperors. They were also top figures in their families. Hence, all of them had inherited the powers of the great emperors. Futian was shocked when he sensed the power gathered by the 8 of them. He glanced at the battle matrix of the rocks. He dared not predict the outcome of this battle. Would the power gathered by the 8 powerful cultivators succeed in breaking through the upgraded battle matrix of the rocks? Rumble. Terrifying sound thundered as a frenzied storm rampaged. The 8 powerful cultivators had once again attacked. Moreover, they had better control of their attack timing this time. All their attacks landed on the battle matrix of the rocks simultaneously. The great path was on the verge of collapsing the moment the attacks landed. The battle matrix of the rocks shook violently as cracks appeared on it. The illusory figures of the ancient gods seemed as though they would disintegrate into pieces at any moment. However, right now, the 9 great cultivators of the Lost Clan closed their eyes and put their hands together. Blood trickled down their bodies. Their blood appeared golden in color as it merged and flowed with the divine light. Red veins flowed over the cracks on the battle matrix of the rocks, fusing them together. The scene was appalling. Futian raised his head and looked at the matrix. Bloody marks appeared on the battle matrix of the rocks. He felt as though he could see similar scars appearing on the bodies of the 9 great cultivators of the Lost Clan. This battle matrix of the rocks was forged with their own flesh. Continue. Hua Junlai and the others showed no sign of ceasing. They continued attacking. As more and more ferocious attacks landed on the matrix, the bloody marks on it also increased. Soon, the red marks covered the entire sealed space. Aside from golden halos, the ancient gods were also covered with a layer of crimson shimmer. "Do all of you still want to continue this battle?" asked the elder of the Lost Clan as he looked at the cultivators who were trapped in the battle matrix of the rocks. No matter how sturdy the matrix was, it would still crumble in the end if the cultivators from the Divine Prefecture attacked it relentlessly. When that happened, the 9 cultivators from the Lost Clan would surely die. Even though the 9 of them were ready to sacrifice their lives to hold up the battle matrix of the rocks, it didn't mean that the Lost Clan was willing to let them die just like that. If the other party chose to retreat, they wouldn't have to go to such an extreme. "The matrix has yet to be broken," How can we stop? Replied Hua Junlai. Clearly, he intended to continue attacking until the matrix was broken. When the elder of the Lost Clan heard his words, he sighed internally. He glanced in the direction of the battle matrix of the rocks. Among the battle matrix, the 9 cultivators still had their eyes closed. However, the divine light on their glabellas shone even more brilliantly. An unprecedented aura radiated from their figures. Futian frowned when he sensed the aura from the battle matrix of the rocks. He could faintly sense that a dangerous aura was approaching and was emanating from within the battle matrix. He looked at the 9 great cultivators of the Lost Clan and detected some changes happening to their figures. He was not the only one who sensed it. The other 8 powerful cultivators also sensed this change and frowned. The next moment, divine light filled the sky. The 9 great cultivators of the Lost Clan seemed to have activated all the cultivation that they had accumulated over their entire lifetimes. This isn't good, said Futian as he realized something. Chapter 2336, Advocating Peace. Futian watched and noticed that as this dangerous aura permeated, the figures of the 9 cultivators from the Lost Clan gradually became more elusive. It was as if they were making an offering of sacrifice. But at the same time, a sense of destruction manifested within the battle matrix made up by the 9 of them, who had been passively defending until now. Hua Junlai and the others, strong as they were, could also feel an overwhelming crisis looming ahead. Instinct told them that it was dangerous, and their lives may be threatened. Boom! An astonishing roar of the great path was heard as those figures of the ancient gods continued to grow and expand. Those previously benign ancient deities were now filled with fierce and menacing spirits. They transformed into vengeful gods. They looked down into the battle matrix at those 9 challengers and made no effort to disguise their murderous intent. At this moment, everyone realized that it was not that the cultivators of the Lost Clan were not experts in slaughtering offensive methods. It was simply that they were reluctant to use it. They had chosen to defend passively before because they didn't want this battle to create any further grievances. However, even though they tried their best to guard the battle matrix of the rocks, Hua Junlai and the others continued to press with their aggressive tactics and would not stop until they break down the battle matrix. If they continued their attack, it was just a matter of time before the battle matrix collapsed. The attacks of these 8 cultivators had already threatened the battle matrix of the rocks, and the outcome would be the total destruction of the battle matrix and the 9 cultivators of the Lost Clan along with it. Hua Junlai and the others would force their way into the heart of the Lost Clan's holy land and cultivate there. This was something that the Lost Clan could not accept, so their action of unleashing their lethal counterattacks was inevitable. Hua Junlai and his cohort had made a decision, and so did the Lost Clan. Since they were all going to die, why bother to maintain a semblance of mercy? This is crazy. The cultivators of the top principalities from Divine Prefecture scowled when they saw this latest development in the battlefield, especially those from the ancient god clan, whose cultivators were participating in the fight. Traces of aggressive aura erupted from them, covering the boundless space instantaneously. The air was so explosive that it could be ignited with just the turning of their minds. At the same time, several powerful cultivators also stepped forward from the Lost Clan and released astonishing coercion that directly engaged the momentum of several top principalities from Divine Prefecture. Every one of them looked solemn. Their eyes showed their steely resolve. The cultivators from the Lost Clan had no fear in their eyes. They would do everything in their power to stay true to their beliefs, including sacrificing their own lives. With such an abundance of courage, what else did they need to fear? Having been in the darkness for so many years, now that the light was finally in sight, how could they fail at a time like this? The 9 cultivators on the battlefield were also living proofs of their beliefs, fighting without fear, all for protecting their continent. Futian saw this and thought that if this were to continue, both sides would probably suffer greatly. Even the 9 cultivators of the Lost Clan would probably die right on the spot. As for the people inside the battle matrix of the rocks, there was no telling what would happen to them, but it would definitely not be anything good. If they didn't die, they would certainly suffer grave injuries. At that time, when 2 uncontrollable sides go to war, The fighting would not be limited to the battlefield then but would also spill over to the outside. Outside, there were already many kinds of tyrannical auras colliding with one another because the space outside the battlefield was equally intense, on the verge of total explosion. It seemed that a conflict might break out at any moment. If the strength of this battle matrix of the rocks had truly threatened the lives of the cultivators inside the formation, those top figures from the ancient god clan would, no doubt, intervene right away. After all, they were nothing like the Lost Clan. To those from the ancient god clan, there were not so many rules and restrictions to observe, and their attitude towards life was quite different from that of the Lost Clan. They didn't have to fight with their lives here. The cultivators inside the battle matrix of the rocks were the top enchanting geniuses from their clan, and the heir of the ancient god clan was amongst them. This battle was already an unequal affair. The Lost Clan had always been in an absolutely passive position. They had to desperately defend themselves, while the ancient god clan didn't need to. That destructive coercion was getting stronger, with a terrifying might. All the ancient gods incarnated as glaring deities. Bloody divine light shot out from their eyes with horrific murderous intent. The rumbling sound came out as frightening golden divine light raging in this battlefield space, and every trace of divine light seemed to contain amazingly destructive power. Hua Junlai and others deployed a protective divine light to block the impact of this golden light. However, at this time, the depressive aura became so dominant that the entire space had been imprisoned, and those within it could hardly move their bodies. Kill! A cold murderous intent flashed across Hua Junlai and the others' eyes, accompanied with a look of determination. It had become challenging for them to move at will, but an absolute divine brilliance of the great path erupted above them. They advanced slowly towards those ancient gods, moving in for the fatal blow. Bang, bang, bang! Astonishing attacks fell as cracks appeared on the bodies of those ancient god clan. Boom! At the same time, a loud crash was heard, and the void seemed to be shattering and pulverizing as Hua Junlai and the others let out a low groan. The 9 cultivators from the Lost Clan seemed to have forgotten themselves, burning themselves up while their strength was still increasing. The attacks from both sides stuck together, and no one was willing to back down. This would only end when one side was destroyed. At this time, Futian moved, and an astonishing violent sound erupted from his divine body of the Great Path. The booming of the Great Path continued without ceasing, and the sword will roared. He moved forward like a sword himself, stepping into the void, in the midst of the enormous oppression of the battle matrix, inching closer to the battlefield. Gradually, his speed was getting faster. His body transformed into the way, like an indestructible divine sword. He descended as a stream of light and directly blasted on the battle matrix of the rocks. In an instant, fissures appeared on the battle matrix. A painful expression appeared on the Lost Clan cultivators' faces, but they still didn't waver. Futian's sword will was getting stronger, as that power penetrated everything and attacked the formation. When he beheld this sight, Hua Junlai and the others had a look of satisfaction on their faces. Finally, Futian made his move. Break the battle matrix, Hua Junlai offered. How about stopping right here, right now? Futian looked inside the battle matrix of the rocks. His eyes seemed to penetrate through it, landing on those 9 powerful cultivators from the Lost Clan. Although the 9 still had their eyes closed, at this moment, Futian felt as if he was facing them, conversing with them. Was it too late to stop now? If they stop, would these cultivators from Divine Prefecture stop? It's not worth it for a fight. Both sides can take a step back. Let's consider this a tie, Futian suggested. Outside, when the old man from the Lost Clan saw this, his attention drifted towards Futian's location. Previously, he was a little surprised when Futian made his move. He thought that Futian would break up the matrix himself, but now it seemed that he wanted to advocate peace instead. The thing was, how could it be as simple as he thought? It was the people from Divine Prefecture who refused to give up. It's not the Lost Clan who won't let go, said the elder of the Lost Clan, who was on the outside. If they refuse to quit, I will leave it alone and let you deal with them, and they can be responsible for what happens after. Yi Futian continued. His words drew the attention of Hua Junlai and the others as they looked at him with some frostiness. Chapter 2337, Reluctance. Yi Futian's words seemed to have a deterrent effect on both sides. Of course, this was made possible by his own tyrannical combat effectiveness. Yi Futian's attack seemed to have threatened the battle matrix of the rocks. This battle matrix may have been broken up had he continued with the attacks, resulting in the death of these cultivators from the Lost Clan, which would directly threaten the stability of the Lost Clan. If he stepped back now and chose not to participate, then the cultivators from the Lost Clan would continue their own attack. It was possible that the 8 cultivators from Divine Prefecture would be slaughtered. In short, there would be casualties on both sides. Therefore, at this moment, Yi Futian seemed to be playing a key role in deterring both sides. He had the ability to advocate a truce. The Lost Clan had to agree, and so did the cultivators from Divine Prefecture. Or else, he would stop running the interference. However, the 8 cultivators from the ancient God clan did not express any gratitude for Yi Futian's suggestion. On the contrary, their eyes were icy when Hua Junlai asked, "Emperor Yi, did you forget the reason why you were in the battle matrix of the rocks?" Yi Futian was invited by him to break up the formation. Now, what was this that he was doing? He seemed to have forgotten which side he belonged to. If Yi Futian still remembered the reason he was here, then he should break up the formation with them, not uttering another word. But obviously, Yi Futian didn't come here to break up the battle matrix of the rocks. And now, the cultivators from Divine Prefecture were unsure of what Yi Futian had in mind, or what was it that he wanted. They thought that for cultivators who had reached this level, everything that they chose to do must have sufficient reasons so that they could convince themselves of their own purpose. But from Yi Futian, they had not seen any evidence of this yet. "You were invited to join us to break the battle matrix of the rocks, which you have clearly forgotten. Do you have any sense of propriety?" Another cultivator from the ancient God clan asked, sounding displeased with strong resentment. "If you gentlemen wish to continue, I will have no choice but to withdraw." Yi Futian didn't respond to the man who spoke, but his response, in turn, caused the cultivators from the ancient God clan to look quite uncertain. Their attacks were strong enough to shake the battle matrix of the rocks in its ultimate configuration, which was the rocks forged by flesh and blood. However, when the cultivators of the Lost Clan were burning themselves up, even powerful existence like them could sense the great danger that was afoot. If Yi Futian withdrew, it was still the strongest blow dealt by the 8 cultivators from Divine Prefecture to the cultivators from the Lost Clan. No one dared to predict what the outcome would be. They themselves would be in the same predicament where their chance of survival would be unknown. This was a tremendous gamble, wagering their own lives. With their status and positions today, were they willing to die here like this? Clearly, it was not a risk that they would take on easily or willingly. Their goal was to provoke Yi Futian into taking action, but no one expected that Yi Futian not only failed to obey but was using it as an opportunity to blackmail them into giving up, knowing very well that his inaction would spell disastrous consequences for all those who chose to continue in the battle. All eyes were focused on Yi Futian. After a while, Hua Junlai, with eyes so frosty, glanced at Yi Futian and addressed the Lost Clan. "In this case, will the cultivators from the Lost Clan agree to stop fighting at this point?" Hua Junlai's words suddenly relaxed the suffocating coercion that had permeated this space. Now that he had posed the question, it was obvious that he intended to give it up and not gamble with their own lives. With their status and positions, there was no need to fight to the death with the Lost Clan. The cultivators from the Lost Clan were willing to protect their cave's holy land with their lives, but their opponents did not have the same resolve, unwilling to risk their lives or inconvenience themselves in the slightest. That aura served as a warning of any potential threats. "Yes," the old man from the Lost Clan said. Unless it was the last resort, why would he order the 9 cultivators from the Lost Clan to fight to the death, all at the same time? Once this final blow was delivered, there would be no retreat. The 9 cultivators from the Lost Clan would die, but their opponents would also pay an equally tragic price. They were forced by the situation. If the Lost Clan did not demonstrate the ruthless measures they were willing to take, there would be other battles to fight in the future. His voice fell, and the divine light began to flow backward, gradually dissipating. Suddenly, the figures of the 9 cultivators from the Lost Clan started to solidify, gradually became clear. However, they seemed to have expanded quite a lot of their own life force as they appeared a little tired. Clearly, they had been weakened quite considerably. Both sides pulled back at the same time. This battle seemed to have ended there. As the two sides pulled away from each other, they fell into a short silence without exchanging words. However, solemnity and oppression could still be felt in the aura of the great path that lingered in the space. This exchange is considered a draw. There is no winner or loser. The old man from the Lost Clan spoke up, but no one responded. The entire space was still frightfully suppressed. At this moment, Hua Junlai turned around, and his cold gaze fell on Futian. His white robe fluttered in the wind, and there were wisps of chill engraved on his face. "Don't you want to explain?" Hua Junlai asked coldly. If Futian had not deliberately done this, they might have been victorious. Their attack was so close to breaking the battle matrix of the rocks. Obviously, Futian could deliver the final coup de grace but deliberately withheld, even using it to threaten them. He didn't fault the cultivators from the Lost Clan. It was a gamble and battle between the two sides. However, in his opinion, Futian had betrayed them. "Perhaps, Emperor, you will be able to cultivate in the caves of the Lost Clan in the near future." Another sarcastic remark was heard from another cultivator of the ancient god clan. They were already a little irritated when Futian was participating in the battle. Not to mention everything that had happened afterward. "I don't want to see anyone get hurt. The continuation of that fight will not benefit either the Lost Clan or any of you. It was just a friendly exchange, no need to pay such a dear price for something so trivial." Futian looked at Hua Junlai as he responded. "Really? Has Emperor Yi never heard of do what you agreed to do?" Obviously, Hua Junlai refused to accept Futian's explanation. If Futian was reluctant to make a move against the Lost Clan, he didn't have to agree to participate in the first place. However, since he did, he should have done all that he could to help them succeed. Not only did Futian fail to do that, but he even refused to make a move and threatened them with his inaction. If he had picked someone else instead of choosing Futian, would the outcome be any different? Could they have broken the battle matrix of the rocks by now? "What do you want?" Futian frowned. Wisps of great path coercion spread out from Hua Junlai's body and directly suppressed upon him. It seemed that Hua Junlai wanted to challenge him. And Hua Junlai was not alone. Other cultivators from Divine Prefecture were also staring him down, and some even took a few steps toward him. The same elusive aura fell on him as well, as if they, too, wanted to take action against him. Clearly, these cultivators were unhappy with him. Futian looked at Hua Junlai and the other 7 cultivators. He said, "My actions are indeed inappropriate. I didn't think things through before agreeing to join the team. However, even if I go all out, I'm not confident that I'll surely be able to shatter the battle matrix of the rocks. The outcome of this battle is uncertain regardless. Even if we manage to break through, who can guarantee that we will come out unscathed?" With a clear and sincere voice, Futian continued, "The cultivators of the Lost Clan are willing to risk their lives to uphold the battle matrix of the rocks. This act is admirable. I admit that I have a soft spot for them. Therefore, the Heavenly Mandate Academy and I will give up on this mission. We will not attack the Lost Clan. We will also give up on the chance of cultivating in the cave of the Lost Clan. We will not loot the treasures that belong to them." He agreed to join the battle, yet he couldn't give his best while the two parties were fighting. He was naturally at fault. However, he did so because he was impressed by everything that the Lost Clan did. So, he didn't want to go to such extremes. "You will give up on the chance to cultivate in the cave?" reiterated a cultivator of the ancient god clan mockingly. "With this gesture, the Lost Clan will most likely treat you as an honorable guest. They might invite you to cultivate in their secret zone after the battle is over." Clearly, the ancient god clan cultivators thought that Futian was trying to curry favor with the Lost Clan. Futian gave the speaker a disdainful sideways glance. he said indifferently. What plane have you reached? And what plane have I reached? Frowning, the other party stared at Yi Futian. He was an 8th Tianhuang, while Yi Futian was a 7th Tianhuang. You can't break through the matrix. On the other hand, I am confident to challenge this 7th tier battle matrix of the rocks. If I join forces with other people, do you think that I will fail? Yi Futian retorted. What he meant was that if he were really interested in cultivating in the secret zone of the Lost Clan, he would have earned the right to do so fair and square by breaking through the battle matrix of the rocks. Yi Futian's words also served to declare to the other party that just because the latter couldn't break through the matrix, it didn't mean that Yi Futian couldn't too. It wouldn't be a surprise to anyone if Yi Futian managed to break through the matrix with his cultivation at the 7th Tianhuang plane. After all, Yi Futian's combat ability was enough for him to contend with the top monstrous figures who were at the 8th tier. You can't tell for sure. The other 8 cultivators were somewhat doubtful. Even though Yi Futian was indeed very powerful, it was still not an easy task to want to break through the battle matrix of the rocks. However, Xiao Mu from the Devil World believed in Yi Futian's words. Since Yi Futian could defeat him, it was most likely possible for him to break through the matrix forged by the 7th tier cultivators from the Lost Clan. After all, the difference between each tier was enormous when cultivators reached Yi Futian's and Xiao Mu's level. Rahuan Yi is full of compassion, praised the elder of the Lost Clan. He then declared, The Lost Clan is glad to befriend Renhuan Yi. Senior, many thanks, responded Yi Futian as he looked at the other party. Since the Shin'i continent has come to the region of the original realm, it's now part of the original realm and the divine prefecture. The Lost Clan should be allowed to exist here as an independent clan. This continent has been through countless challenges before it finally emerged from the void. I hope that the seniors from the divine prefecture can take this into consideration. The Shin'i continent had now drifted into the space of the original realm. Since the original realm was part of the divine prefecture, Yi Futian recognized the Lost Clan to be under the jurisdiction of the divine prefecture. In that case, the Lost Clan could be considered an independent faction of the divine prefecture. Unfortunately, even though Yi Futian's friendliness towards the Lost Clan caused him to win their favor, it also caused him to offend all the cultivators from the ancient God clan. Yi Futian's readiness to accept the Lost Clan formed a stark contrast with the actions of the ancient God clan. He made them seem despicable. Was Yi Futian using the ancient God clan to establish a good connection with the Lost Clan? Hua Junlai's gaze was fixed on Yi Futian. A majestic might of the great path emanated from him and pressured Yi Futian. Hua Junlai's white robes fluttered in the wind. His aura churned and grew more frightening. He took a step forward and said, Renhuan Yi, your words exemplify your noble character. Now you make it seem that we are the ones who are despicable. I invited you to join our party because I have heard that you have an exceptional temperament, and have acquired the inheritances of a few great emperors. However, up until now, I have yet to see you attacking. Since that's the case, I have no choice but to personally test out your ability. Hua Junlai intended to attack Yi Futian. As soon as he said this, a menacing aura burst forth. His might descended upon Yi Futian. An illusory figure of a god appeared. It was as though Haotian the Great was reincarnated into the present. Hua Junlai stood in front of the illusory figure of the great emperor. He was akin to the successor of the god. His charisma was unparalleled. Since you want to get a taste of my power, I have no choice but to oblige your request, responded Yi Futian. His figure shot up to the sky like a meteorite. In an instant, he appeared high above in the sky. Hua Junlai also flew up to the sky. The two of them stared at each other from across the space. Their auras of the great path churned and roared. Their might spanned across the entire region. They seemed to be contending to be the ruler of this part of the sky. Hua Junlai raised his arm. Similarly, the illusory figure of the god raised his arm. Their movements were in sync. They sent out a palm strike. In an instant, the great path thundered, and the heavens and the earth shook. A gigantic palm directly descended upon Yi Futian. Far in the distance, Yi Futian felt as though the sky was collapsing. The entire sky transformed into a gigantic palm that was charging towards him. He had nowhere to hide. The entire space of the great path was within the attack range of this gigantic palm. Besides that, endless destructive divine light flowed around the palm. It was as though the will of Futian the Great had been infused in the divine light. It would destroy everything along its path. Buzz! The fatal gigantic palm plunged downwards, eradicating every speck of existence along its way. Rumbling sounds rang. It was the reverberation of the great path emanating from Futian's body. Divine light burst forth from his body. It was likewise infused with imperial glory. The will of the great emperor could still boost his ability now, but its effect was not as strong as it was in the past. After all, Futian was already approaching the peak of the Renhuang plain. Futian pointed a finger upward. Instantly, alarming sounds buzzed, and a myriad of starry divine swords shot upwards. They clashed with the descending gigantic palm. Bang! 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 Shocking collisions echoed continuously. Each and every divine sword collided forcefully with the palm. Cracks immediately appeared on the gigantic palm. Then, the palm and the starry divine swords disintegrated into pieces together. Everything turned into dust. Far in the distance, Hua Junlai floated in the high heavens. He was at a higher position than Futian. He was not as naive as to think that he could defeat Futian with a single attack. After all, the other party was also a formidable existence that ruled over an entire realm. He looked down at the silhouette below. A vast heavenly might burst forth from his figure. The silhouette of the great emperor behind him made it seem as though Futian the Great had truly descended upon the world. He himself was a descendant of Futian the Great, and had inherited the will of the great emperor. Down below, where the lost clan was, the various cultivators looked up at the battle high in the sky. Their hearts stirred slightly. Before this, Hua Junlai was trapped within the battle matrix of the rocks, and could not go all out. He had been heavily restricted. He most likely felt aggravated over this. At this moment, in his battle with Futian, he could finally unleash his combat ability completely. This powerful existence of the ancient god clan versus the young ruler of the original realm. Who was stronger? Chapter 2339, Clash and Smash. After the destructive current dissipated, Futian raised his head and looked up. Hua Junlai was standing in the high heavens and was looking down on him like a deity. After taking a glance at Hua Junlai, Futian felt as though the entire world had changed. The heaven and the earth around him were no longer that of before. Instead, he was trapped in a world enveloped by the will of Futian the Great. Right above his head stood the figure of the great emperor. The sensation he felt was similar to that when he became one with the stars in the starry cultivation court, and saw the figure of great Emperor Ziwei. It seemed like the other parties had overtaken this part of the sky and transformed it into his domain of the great path. Streaks of divine light shone down from the illusory figure of Futian the Great. The might pressed downwards. At this moment, Futian could sense a domineering will pressuring down on him. It was akin to the will of a god, causing him to gasp for air. As a successor of the ancient god clan, Hua Junlai was undoubtedly an extraordinary figure. The pressure Futian felt now was on par with that when he was facing Xiao Mu. For Hua Junlai to enjoy his current status, he would most likely be one of the strongest cultivators in the Futian clan. He was definitely at the top. Otherwise, it was impossible for him to have such status. When he was in the original realm, his will symbolized the will of the Futian clan. Futian, do you admit to your wrongdoing? A voice called out. It rang in Futian's ears as though a heavenly might had descended. It caused the space to tremble and could shake the spiritual souls of those around and affect their wills. It was as though a deity was questioning him. The voice contained the law of the great path. Admit to my wrongdoing? Futian looked up at the illusory figure of Futian the Great in the sky. This was an illusion created by Hua Junlai, relying on the will of Futian the Great to pressure him. It felt as though it was really the will of Futian the Great passing judgment on all that Futian had done. A cold and indifferent look flashed past in Futian's eyes. He bore a look of arrogance. Yet alone the will of Futian the Great, Even if the other party had completely inherited the teachings of Futian the Great and wanted to pressure him into submission, he would not be able to do so. Beams of divine light that filled the sky radiated from Futian's figure as he stood in the air. Endless divine halos burst forth from his divine body of the Great Path, which was akin to that of a deity. He was too dazzling to behold. At the same time, various stars appeared in his surroundings and circled him. A towering illusory figure of a deity appeared. It was the silhouette of Great Emperor Ziwei. Hua Junlai wanted to pressure him with just a mere sliver of the will of Futian the Great. Back in the day, Great Emperor Ziwei was one of the most prominent great emperors. Futian was his heir. He had unraveled the mystery of Great Emperor Ziwei in the starry world and now inherited his will. He would not allow such blasphemy. Brilliant divine halos shone. Two extremely powerful wills clashed. Even though the heavenly might that filled the sky circled around him, Futian still stood there motionlessly. Even if I had committed any wrongdoings, since when were you qualified to pass judgment on me? Replied Futian imposingly. Even if Hua Junlai was a descendant of the ancient god clan, what of it? Hua Junlai actually asked Futian whether or not he admitted to his wrongdoing. Although Futian felt somewhat apologetic, it was because he had hurriedly agreed to the other party's request without thinking things through. Otherwise, if he knew what would happen after, he would not have formed an alliance with the other party. It was as though there were two great emperors on the battlefield. Both of them contained menacing wills. They also seemed to be staring at each other from across the space. They were Futian the Great and Great Emperor Ziwei. Both great emperors had unparalleled temperament. In the sky above, Hua Junlai looked down as he raised his arm. A terrifying pressure permeated across the space. The next moment, a gigantic palm smacked downwards. In an instant, the sky tore apart while the earth quaked. Frightening rumbling sounds echoed. The entire sky seemed to have ruptured. The palm eradicated everything that crossed its path. This gigantic palm spanned across this part of the sky. The palm was boundless and could destroy everything. No matter where one ran to, one couldn't possibly escape from its attack range. This was the art of supreme attack of the Futian clan, the Futian Madra. As soon as Hua Junlai attacked, he revealed his intention of ending the battle with a single blow. He was set to destroy Futian without any mercy. Clearly, he had a lot of pent-up anger for not being able to break through the battle matrix of the rocks earlier. Hence, he intended to vent his anger by killing Futian with a single strike. At the same time, when Hua Junlai unleashed his attack, starlight flowed around Futian, and the stars became one. Great Emperor Ziwei's figure and Futian's figure overlapped and merged. A myriad of starry divine swords shot out. As sturdy as stone pillars, the swords blasted towards the descending gigantic palm. Bang! The Futian Madra continued to press down on him. Everything in its path was destroyed. The starry divine swords were similarly turned to dust. It seemed as though no power could withstand the Futian Madra. Buzz! Starlight gathered on his body. Futian appeared like a great emperor reborn. He was majestic. All around him, countless starry divine swords shot up towards the Futian Madra in the sky. It was as though countless rock pillars were pummeling the Futian Madra. Although they were being destroyed at a frenzied pace, they still managed to hold back its descent. At the same time, amidst endless divine light, Futian's figure immediately shot up into the sky. He raised his arms, and the endless power of the great path emanated from within his body, forming a gigantic starry divine sword. It was as though the divine sword and his figure had merged. It directly attacked the Futian Madra. Right then, cracks appeared on the Futian Madra. Then, it shattered at a rapid pace. Bang! With a huge thud, the Futian Madra shattered into pieces. However, the starry divine sword similarly crumbled away. Futian's figure continued rising up. He charged through the Futian Madra, becoming a light beam of swordsmanship that shot straight towards Hua Junlai. He was extremely fast. When the various cultivators witnessed this scene, they narrowed their gazes. Futian's flesh and body were terrifyingly powerful. Was he planning to fight Hua Junlai up close? For cultivators at their level, the attack range of any of their blows spanned across the entire space. There was no need for them to engage in close combat. Furthermore, close combat was more dangerous than attacking from far anyway. Shimmering with imperial glory, Yi Futian charged towards Hua Junlai in the blink of an eye. The great path roared in his body. Hua Junlai showed no sign of fear when he saw Yi Futian pounce onto him. He didn't dodge. The imperial glory of the great emperor enveloped his body. Both his hands were permeated with a menacing aura as he was ready to unleash the Midral. When Yi Futian got closer, Hua Junlai slammed both his hands downwards. The Haotian Midral erupted with a terrifying might. The two clashed head-on. Yi Futian's flesh was as sharp as a sword. The power of Yin and the solar power burst forth from his body simultaneously. He seemed to have transformed into a blade as he collided with Hua Junlai's palms. The sky seemed as though it would collapse at any moment. The terrifying storm of the great path spiraled outwards. The two of them actually engaged in close combat. They tanked each other's attacks with their flesh. They exchanged blow after blow, showing no sign of stopping. The various cultivators looked towards the battlefield. Many people down below released the power of the great path to block off the residue shockwaves. Terrifying storms swept out in the sky above, enveloping the vast space. The space seemed to be collapsing from the battle. The cultivators noticed that Hua Junlai's condition felt off. He seemed to be expending more and more of his strength. In the end, a huge explosion could be heard. Hua Junlai's figure was sent flying outwards. With a dull groan, he spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. Chapter 2340 Total Aggression. Yi Futian stood above the firmament, while Hua Junlai had been blasted to the ground below. The positions of the two seemed to have been reversed. The top figures of the various forces were below, watching the battlefield in the void intently, and their hearts were disquieted. Hua Junlai of the Haotian clan was crushed by Yi Futian from the original realm. In this powerful confrontation, Hua Junlai suffered major blows that wounded him. Obviously, the physical strength of the two was not at the same level. Yi Futian was far superior to Hua Junlai. After all, Yi Futian was only Renhuang in the 7th realm, while Hua Junlai was a Renhuang in the 8th realm. Hua Junlai getting crushed so badly suggested that there must have been a considerable discrepancy between them. At present, Yi Futian stood high above the sky, with divine light surrounding his body of the great path. His appearance made him look invincible. It was as if the real great emperor himself had truly descended amongst the world. Yi Futian had always prided himself as possessing the divine body of the heavenly path. And at this moment, his physical body was truly astounding. This physical body was formed based on the comprehension he received from the divine body of Xinjiao the great emperor. Hua Junlai did not give up after being blasted down to the ground below. He raised his head and scanned for Yi Futian, who was above the sky. His eyes were cold, and murderous intent was blazing inside of him. Rays of divine light came down from the outer sky and fell upon him. That divine shadow became clearer now. It was as if Haotian the Great had reincarnated with him. Suddenly ethereal voices were heard between heaven and earth, and a terrible rumbling sound came out. The storm of the great path was raging madly within this boundless void and shrouding it. Above the firmament, an elusive shadow appeared, and it was the phantom of Haotian the Great. It seemed as if this corner of the world was the realm belonging to the great emperor, created by Haotian the Great. Hua Junlai was condensing the seal with his hands, and suddenly the phantoms of the great emperors in the heavens were doing the same at the same time. It was as if reflected by many mirrors of the same movements. It was as if there were only the existence of this divine seal in all of the world. The cultivators from Haotian clan looked at the battlefield but did not interfere. Even if Yi Futian had the upper hand, he would not dare to harm Hua Junlai. Furthermore, Yi Futian's superior power would serve as a challenge for Hua Junlai. Although they were unhappy with Yi Futian, it did not change the fact that Yi Futian was a great opponent. His combat effectiveness was not inferior to the enchanting geniuses from ancient god clan. His strength was most formidable. Boom! An astonishing sound came out as Yi Futian's body of the great path roared and howled. Above the heavens, a starry sky world appeared, with countless stars circulating about. The sun and the moon hung high in the sky, sprinkling endless divine light that illuminated the stars. It was like an entirely independent world on its own. This force then collided with the phantoms in the heavens as if they were vying for control of this corner of the sky. Buzz! When the light of the sun and the moon sprinkled down, the stars were circulating. Each of the stars was rotating around this space, centered around Futian's position. They were spinning faster and faster as the world howled. In this rotating starry world, every one of the stars contained unparalleled prowess. Under the illumination of so much divine lights which fell upon Futian, who was in the center of it all. Futian of this moment was like the absolute ruler of this world, the king of the sun and the moon, the lord of the stars, and master of the starry rules. The phantom of Ziwei the Great appeared, descended upon the world and merged with Futian. Faintly, the will of the great emperor descended into this world, pressed down with his might, coexisting with the will of Futian the Great in this world, at the same time. By comparison, the imperial glory from Futian the Great dimmed alongside the overpowering will in the surrounding space. Is this the power inherited from Ziwei the Great? The cultivators below wondered when they saw this sight before them. Ziwei the Great had been one of the most powerful great emperors in ancient times, who was in charge of Ziwei's segmentum. He was the god of the stars, who controlled the rules of the starry great path. At this time, they could detect this kind of rule power from Futian. The rotation of the stars in heaven seemed to become more and more ethereal. Hua Junlai looked up and saw the magnificent spectacle in the void. At this moment, in his heart, he had lost the confidence he possessed previously. The arrogance in his eyes didn't seem to be there anymore. He seemed to finally realize that this king of the original realm, who was of the seventh realm, had far superior combat effectiveness. A touch of reluctance flashed through his eyes as Hua Junlai formed the Futian seal to attack. The heavens boomed as countless divine seals blasted down at the same time to smash through this corner of the sky, aiming toward Futian. But at this time, the stars surrounding Futian flowed frantically, forming an absolute enclosed space. When the divine seals in the heaven blasted down, heaven and earth shattered, while the violent roars shook this space. A terrifying storm destroyed everything and radiated toward the infinite space, spreading further into the distance. However, even though many of the stars that flowed around Futian's body had been destroyed, more of them continued to pour out according to their own rules, and an even more radiant divine light bloomed from that starry sky world. Those sharp eyes from Futian swept across the surrounding heaven and earth. He then raised his hand to point towards the void, and the stars began flowing, rushing towards the surrounding sky and earth. Bang, bang, bang. The terrifying sound caused heaven and the earth to collapse, along with those elusive imperial shadows. The starlight connected as one, as if carrying the divine light from the sun and the moon to destroy all those imperial shadows. Soon, all the imperial shadows shattered, and the great path domain of the other was pulverized. Futian's body was shining with brilliance. It was like the great emperor had descended into the world. He looked at Hua Junlai below and pointed with his raised hand. Suddenly a starry divine sword penetrated the void, overcame everything. Hua Junlai blasted out the divine seal, but it was for naught. The starry divine sword, carrying tremendous momentum, arrived in front of Hua Junlai in an instant. Boom! An extremely terrifying storm swept out, and the starry divine sword stopped in front of Hua Junlai. That terrifying storm of destruction buffeted Hua Junlai so that his white robe fluttered wildly in the winds and his long hair danced with menace. Hua Junlai's eyes were open, fixed on the divine sword that hung above his head, which nearly killed him. There was some sadness in his eyes. Not only was he defeated, but he was defeated miserably. Before, his combat had been boosted by the eruption of the great emperor's will. But when Futian called upon the will of the great emperor, he could not stop his attacks. Futian, who had inherited the will of Ziwei the Great, was far stronger than they had ever imagined. At this moment, many cultivators remembered what Futian said before. If he wanted to cultivate in the holy land of the Lost Clan, he could have simply broken the matrix all by himself. There was no need to resort to other means to placate the lost clan. He could break down the battle matrix of the rocks set up by the cultivators in the seventh realm from the lost clan. No one doubted Futian's claim at this moment as he displayed his battle effectiveness. They believed he could achieve what he said he could. Futian looked at Hua Junlai as he waved his hand. The divine sword flew back to him and didn't slay Hua Junlai after all. He didn't really want to kill Hua Junlai. They were not sworn enemies, and there were no major grudges between them. Do not do to others what you do not want others to do to you. Had this Shin'i continent been a land without a master, with no one in control, it would not matter who tried to take it for themselves. But the Lost Clan had been established on this continent, and has guarded the continent for many years. No one should try to take that away from them. It is not just, Futian proclaimed loudly and clearly. However, those cultivators from other top forces were unmoved by what he said. They had lived longer and experienced more. Many of them had lived through the turbulent era 400 years ago and experienced firsthand the cruelty of the cultivation world. Futian was far too idealistic. The world of the cultivators was a ruthless one, and things such as pillage were commonplace. If one day they faced a similar situation, no one would pity them. They would make the same choice of robbing them of what they had. Chapter 2341 Tension. For Shin'i continent to have appeared in the original realm and demonstrate such astonishing strength, how could these top forces not have some designs of their own? Moreover, no one knew what was in the secret zone of the Lost Clan, but they estimated that there must be some worthwhile secrets to be had. For the Lost Clan to survive these long years and the Dark Ages, there must be methods other than those they had displayed. Just mind yourself, and don't worry about us. How we want to do things is none of your concern. In the crowd, a scratchy old voice, tinged with indifference, was berating Futian. Even though Futian's current status was lofty, and he had demonstrated extremely powerful combat effectiveness, the cultivators who were present were no small figures. Aside from the top principalities from Divine Prefecture, many of them were at the top of the cultivation world. There was no lack of those who had passed the divine tribulation of the Great Path with the ancient god clan on their side. And this was only those from Divine Prefecture. In addition to Divine Prefecture, there were also top figures from the Dark World, Human Realm, and other realms, with Imperial-level forces personally representing. No matter how closely such lineups were to be scrutinized, Futian, at the very most, was just as a rising star. No matter how outstanding he was just a young upstart. Futian's attempt to dissuade everyone's plan about the Lost Clan was really overestimating his own influence. It was just as that old man had suggested, how these top forces decided to conduct their own business, needing no direction from Futian. Go back, said another voice, still directed at Futian, urging him to stand down. Although he had defeated and crushed Hua Junlai from the ancient god clan, it only proved that he had what it took to enter the secret zone of the Lost Clan. However, Futian's status was far from sufficient to keep a lid on the whole situation. Not just him. No one here could stop the development of the situation at hand. Futian looked at the crowd and sighed inside. In fact, he knew very well that he could not alter things very much. After all, the forces who were here today were almost the very top forces in each of the known worlds. His own influence fell short by comparison and was not enough to change much. But looking at how things were playing out, any continuation would only cause harm to both sides until the two sides launched a full-on war. This thing had its own momentum that could not be stopped now. He had wanted to give it his best shot, but it was of no use. Emperor Yi is righteous, and the Lost Clan is most grateful. But today's matter has nothing to do with Emperor Yi. Since everyone who came here refused to give up, we have no choice but to continue. Emperor Yi should not insist on interceding further. Of course, the Lost Clan is most willing to make friends with Emperor Yi. The old man from the Lost Clan spoke with some heartfelt gratitude towards Futian. Besieged by all these principalities, only Futian was willing to speak up for them. Furthermore, he had the ability to break down the Lost Clan's battle matrix of the rocks but didn't. Obviously, he had no intention to rob them of the secret zone, and their cultivation methods. True gentlemen harbored no ill will. Futian was probably a good example of that saying. However, since the lost clan came out of the infinite darkness and drifted to the original realm, they were destined to experience this trial. If they did not endeavor to survive it, how could they possibly enjoy any peace in the future? To gain a foothold in the original realm, they must first overcome this challenge. If they did, then no one would dare to provoke them with impunity in the future. All the top powers of the world would have to weigh the matter carefully before they had any thoughts of challenging the lost clan again. However, they were facing a real catastrophe this time. What was at stake could not be more important to them all, and there was no guarantee whether they would survive it or not. Futian looked at the old man from the lost clan and nodded slightly. Then he moved towards the ground below with no intention of lingering any longer. He could not change much anyways. Everything would have to depend on the lost clan themselves now. The old man from the lost clan surveyed the crowd and said, "According to the previous agreement, the losers must hand over to lost clan the cultivation methods used during the battle, to be kept in the secret zone caves, where they will be enshrined for future generations of the lost clan to cultivate. Previous battles have already determined many victories and defeats. Those who had lost, please hand over the cultivation methods you used on the lost clan." Futian, who had just returned to the group from Heavenly Mandate Academy, sharpened his eyes as he turned to look in the direction of the old man. What was this sudden change of attitude? The words from the old man obviously meant that he was getting more assertive. He began to demand the price the opponent had promised to pay if they were defeated. However, many in the crowd understood that this was simply a price these opponents could not afford to pay. For instance, would Xiao Mu, the direct disciple of the Devil Emperor, hand over the 9 slashes of the heavenly demon and the super demonic form? It was completely an impossibility. The Devil Emperor would probably end this idiotic disciple's life before that happens. Because of his lack of ability, he was defeated and lost the method taught by the Devil Emperor himself in a wager. The same held true for other cultivators. What they had used before were the unique methods of their respective clan forces, but they were unsuccessful in breaking down the battle matrix of the rocks. Now, the lost clan cultivators were asking for their cultivation methods. How could they hand them over just like that? No one spoke, and the space seemed a little too quiet. Those cultivators who were defeated seemed to look in other directions, looking at other people, to see who would take the initiative to do anything. Watching this, the old man understood how this would play out. He actually had no intention of asking for the cultivation methods of these top principalities. He knew very well that such request was impossible for them to comply. He did it to force these invaders to consider from the standpoint of the lost clan. Just like them, the lost clan would never allow outside cultivators to enter their secret zone. But the lost clan seemed to have underestimated the determination of these top cultivators. They seemed determined to gain entry to the secret zone of the lost clan no matter what. This was clearly evident from their previous action. If this was the case, there was no more need to continue being courteous. These defeated cultivators would either hand over what they had wagered, or it was going to be an all-out war. "You are all cultivators from top principalities and top figures from all the worlds. Are you going to go back on your promises? Since you have been defeated, you should deliver what you promise." The old man of the lost clan continued, his voice indifferent but tranquil. The cultivators who were defeated previously looked on, still silent. In the direction of the Devil World, someone looked at the old man and said, "Even if the Devil World is willing to surrender them, does the Lost Clan have the gall to accept? Would the Lost Clan be so bold as to accept the cultivation method of the Devil Emperor? If they did that, they would undoubtedly offend the Devil Emperor themselves, but at the same time, would the Devil World let the Lost Clan off the hook? So, none of you intended to keep your promises from the very beginning?" The cultivator from the Lost Clan continued. "That is to say, you were lying to us right from the start. If you lost, you don't need to pay any penalty, but if you won, you wanted to have the right to enter our secret zone to cultivate. With such a rotten deal, is there any need to continue talking about it?" As his voice trailed off, the surrounding space suddenly quieted down. Aura from cultivators of all principalities spread to cover the void as an invisible pressure radiated outward. There was an extreme discomfort in the atmosphere, faintly suffocating. In the far distance, many Imperial-level cultivators walked in the direction of the Lost Clan, loosely forming a circle to surround the Lost Clan. They were powerful cultivators from all sides of the Shini continent who came as reinforcement. Chapter 2342 Stance from All Sides. In the vast space around the Lost Clan, the atmosphere became unbelievably oppressive. From the Lost Clan, out came mighty cultivators, with some standing guard on top of the buildings, their eyes fixed on the cultivators from various forces of the worlds. There was no fear in their eyes, and eyes like that instilled fear in those who saw them. The cultivators of the Lost Clan were not afraid of death. From the day that they entered the Lost Clan, they had prepared to sacrifice their lives at any moment, and were ready to meet their deaths. As those cultivators continued to progress, the beliefs and courage that they held deep in their hearts had far surpassed their fear of death. Countless years they had walked during the Dark Ages, and there was nothing more that could make them afraid. Everything they were facing now was just a repeat of what they had experienced in the Dark Ages. Cultivators from all sides wore the most serious expressions on their faces. There was no lack of cultivators who were not afraid of death, and not all of them were so awe-inspiring. But at this level of cultivation, death was somewhat frightening in itself. Take, for instance, the 9 cultivators in the Lost Clan's battle matrix of the rocks. Any one of the 9 would be an awesome figure in the outside world. But in here, they were just a member of the Lost Clan who would rather die guarding the battle matrix. The power they were capable of exerting was so shocking that the 8 enchanting geniuses from the ancient god clan could not break it. Had they continued, both sides may very well sustain grave casualties. Therefore, if they were really to go to war, they had no clear idea just how many methods were at the disposal of the Lost Clan. But judging from the fearless courage exhibited by the Lost Clan so far, they would probably slaughter as many of the cultivators as possible so that the outsiders would also pay dearly for their transgression. The Lost Clan came upon the original realm by chance, and it was not our intention to cause any trouble. All we wanted was to coexist in peace. That is why we have invited everyone to enter our secret zone as a gesture of goodwill. We have even allowed everyone to cultivate in our secret zone through friendly exchanges. There is no need now to speak openly about what you are really coveting in your hearts. If this is the case, we will protect the Lost Clan at any cost. If the Lost Clan is destroyed, so will the secret zone. No one would obtain any inheritance from the demise of the Lost Clan. The old man addressed everyone with a solemn voice, grave but powerful. Even if the Lost Clan were obliterated, none of the cultivators from those various forces would be able to claim anything from the Lost Clan for themselves. The Lost Clan would destroy the secret zone. People of the Lost Clan is faithful to our pledge, protecting the Lost Clan with our lives. The old man continued as an even more solemn aura effused, enveloped the boundless space as invisible as the air. This atmosphere was formed by the common will of all the cultivators in the Lost Clan. Protecting the Lost Clan, with our lives. Voices were heard, one after the other, resounding inside the Lost Clan. Protecting the Lost Clan, with our lives. Outside the Lost Clan, those Rahuan cultivators who had arrived also reiterated the oath with one voice, sounding solemn. In an instant, a curious force filled the space between heaven and earth. As these voices continued to resonate, a shocking and oppressive ambience seemed to suffocate many cultivators inside the space. In the secret zone of the Lost Clan, cultivators began to walk out one after another, all with a frightening aura. Many of them were elders, and some looked much older, with wrinkles all over their faces. But their eyes were piercing, spirited, and full of power, zooming in on the cultivators from all sides. In their eyes there was a great power that was palpable. The solemn voice and that astonishing air shrouded all the cultivators from various forces. No one dared to act carelessly. The cultivators from all sides had tested the strength of the Lost Clan before, and knew they were incredibly strong. After they had gone through the previous exhibition fighting inside the battle matrix of the rocks, they had a much better understanding of the prowess the Lost Clan was capable of. At this moment, a group of cultivators took a few steps forward. These men had extraordinary and unparalleled temperaments, and a faint aura of righteousness could be perceived from them. The divine light that surrounded them gave an extremely pleasant feeling. Cultivators from the human realm. The man that was the head of the human realm congregation bowed slightly in the direction of the Lost Clan, who was in the distance, and said, "The Lost Clan has been protecting the Shinny continent for countless years to ensure its existence, and deserves our utmost respect. The human realm will not be enemies with the Lost Clan, and we won't participate in any disputes and battles with the Lost Clan. The reason why we came here was the appearance of the relic. After learning so much about the Lost Clan, we have nothing but admiration for you." Human realm had forfeited. They chose not to take an opposing position against the Lost Clan. When the elder from the Lost Clan heard this, he made a bow with his hands together in front of him and said, "The Lost Clan thanks you for your kindness and righteousness. Emperor Yi from the original realm was right. Don't do unto others what we don't want to have done unto ourselves. Since Shi continent has guardians for protection, there is no need to be so unrelenting and unreasonable. The Lost Clan is a principality that goes back to ancient times, and it is not easy for it to sustain its existence until this day. Why not just let the Lost Clan become a force in this world and cultivate?" A cultivator from the human realm continued to advocate and look toward Yi Futian while he was speaking. However, the dark world, the empty divine realm, and the devil world were quite unimpressed with the words and actions coming from the human realm. In their opinion, those from the human realm, like Yi Futian, were just a bunch of sanctimonious fakes. But they had heard that this kind of behavior was not unusual in the human realm. They had proclaimed themselves to be the most orthodox heirs after the heavenly path, descendants of the human race, even naming the great emperor of the human realm as the human ancestor. "We didn't say the Lost Clan couldn't become a force in the cultivation world. We just wanted to enter their secret zone to take a look, there were no other intentions. But the Lost Clan couldn't even agree to such a simple request. How can we be friends?" An incredibly wicked voice was speaking, and it belonged to a top figure from the empty divine realm. The empty divine realm was also known as the evil emperor realm. The master of the empty divine realm was called the evil emperor, and it goes without saying that his disciples were also endowed with quite a bit of wickedness. The cultivator who spoke was one of evil emperor's disciples. "That's right. If the human realm doesn't want to participate, then please get out in our way. We just wanted to take a look inside the secret zone of the Lost Clan. I don't believe the Lost Clan will begrudge us that." The cultivator from the dark world also joined in. They had come this far, they would not give it up so readily. "Of course, the Lost Clan cannot possibly agree to such request," said the cultivator from the Lost Clan. "If you insist on entering the secret zone of Lost Clan, it will only be over our dead bodies." When the voice fell, the sense of solemnity intensified. The divine light that was shining on the cultivators of the Lost Clan shrouded the boundless space. Phantoms of the ancient gods appeared everywhere in the surrounding areas. Right in front of them, and behind the great cultivators of the Lost Clan, the phantoms of the ancient gods that appeared were like true deities, massive and gigantic, reaching all the way to the sky. An aura of immeasurable horror now bloomed from them. Chapter 2343 Crisis for the Lost Clan. The Lost Clan was ready to move immediately. They had clearly taken their own lives out of the equation. The shadows of the ancient gods shrouded the boundless space, and many ancient deities resonated with one another and united into one entity, blocking out all the lights from the sky. This vast space was now transformed into a realm belonging to those ancient gods. Those ancient gods seemed to come into being through these cultivators from the Lost Clan. Suddenly, their eyes opened, emitting shocking divine light. They looked at those cultivators who moved against them. "If you still wanted to force your way into the secret zone paradise of the Lost Clan, you better get on with it." A voice resounded through the space, and the heavens resonated with the call to battle immediately. A solemn voice was heard, and it seemed to be coming from a time long ago, veiled in an ancient and powerful aura. The cultivators from all the top forces watched with serious expressions. Gone was the relaxed attitude they had before. All of them were from major worlds, some even from the world's top forces, such as the empty mountain cultivators from the empty divine realm, cultivators of the dark court from the dark world, the devil imperial palace of the devil world. They were the kings of each of these worlds. The Lost Clan was not inferior to any of them. They thought that perhaps the dark environment the Lost Clan was forced to contend with was a factor for their resilience. In addition, the ancestors of the Lost Clan must have also been some amazing characters. The Shinny continent itself was extraordinary on its own, and was never meant to be some ordinary place, even since the beginning of times. But because they were abandoned by the gods, none of these cultivators on the continent were aware of their own ancestry or who they inherited it from. However, each generation of the Lost Clan was filled with genius talents, having allowed them to create a flourishing culture. "Let's get it on," a voice commanded, with the determination of those cultivators. Since this was where they were at, a battle could not be avoided no matter what. With the determination of the Lost Clan, they, as the challengers, had to defeat them before they could enter the secret zone paradise and glimpse upon the secrets of the Lost Clan. Rumble. A terrific sound came out, indicating that the cultivators from the empty divine realm had mobilized. Mighty and gigantic heavenly deities emerged, standing between heaven and earth, surrounded by divine light. Their presence was completely overpowering. Each of those golden divine rays was full of terrifying auras of destruction. Futian looked there and realized that he had seen this ability before. Most of the cultivators from Empty Mountain seemed to have cultivated in this aggressive method. In other directions, the cultivators from the Devil World were also on the move. An overbearing demonic shadow appeared. It was as if the cultivators were summoning the demon gods. Their bodies of the Great Path became terrifying as those demonic bodies were surrounded by demonic glory. The cultivators from the Devil Imperial Palace, including direct disciples of the Devil Emperor. Some of the top figures were all qualified to comprehend the super-demonic form in cultivation, thus creating their own demonic form. The tyranny of each person's demonic form would be determined according to different degrees of their comprehension and cultivation ability. But there was no one here who were not powerful existences themselves. None of them were simple. The cultivators from Divine Prefecture and the Dark World were starting their offensive as they gathered an extraordinary amount of power now. For a moment, the coercion in this space was simply terrifying. Many of those second-tier cultivators from Divine Prefecture's top principalities felt as if their hearts were palpitating. The coercion on this side of the world had grown so strong that it was almost unbearable. They did not doubt that they were not even qualified to participate in a battle on this scale. The strongest participants in the battle had all been those existences who had survived the divine tribulation of the Great Path, and quite a few of them had survived the second divine tribulation. Their strength was horrific beyond imagination. Under this kind of authoritative pressure, even those giants who had cultivated to the peak of Renhuang could also feel suffocating oppression. Seeing that the cultivators from all sides were ready to move, those from the Lost Clan did not hesitate any longer. Those ancient godlike figures released an incomparable aura. Like glaring deities, the golden divine brilliance from their eyes contained the might of total ruination. They turned into golden spatial lightning, blasting towards this corner of the sky. Accompanied by the slaughtering of this golden divine light, the space cracked wide open and was torn apart by the force of the golden divine light. If such terrifying power were to land on bodies made of flesh and blood, it would probably squash anyone unfortunate enough to be in its path. The cultivators of the empty divine realm took the lead. Golden figures of heavenly deities moved in unison, directly blasting out billions of fists or aura, sheltering the sky and the sun. The blast radius covered the boundless space, and the entire world was within range of the attacks from the golden divine fists. The golden divine fist was torn apart and pulverized into nothingness. The golden lightning that shot out contained exceptional power, which continued to slaughter its way forward. Like an apocalyptical divine light, everything was shattered in its wake. But that fist or aura was infinite, one after the other, creating many destructive currents, enough to fill that vast space. In the world of cultivation, the destructive power that could be erupted from a cultivator who had survived the divine tribulation of the Great Path was quite astonishing. It was impossible to imagine the force that unleashed when multiple cultivators of such caliber attacked at the same time. Futian and his people did not participate in the battle, nor did those tyrannical attacks move in their direction. This battlefield was actually very extensive, but even so, the entire vast space was within the rippling after-effects of the fight. No matter where they stood, there was simply no escape. Renhuangchen walked to the very front to release the starry divine light, erecting a starry light screen around them. However, when those turbulent rogue waves of destruction impacted them, the starry light screen shaking wildly, cracks appearing upon it. Nonetheless, those cracks were quickly repaired as soon as they appeared. But to continue like this, it wouldn't last long before it shattered for good, and this space would be torn to pieces. This space won't be able to withstand this kind of attack. It will completely collapse and shatter, Renhuangchen observed. In the void, those ancient gods exploded with another attack. The ancient gods raised their hands and slammed in the direction of this space. An incomparably somber intention of destruction descended, hovered in the sky above everyone. This attack had covered this corner of the sky, and no one was able to hide from it, as everything was fair game. Break him! An indifferent voice came from the direction of the empty divine realm. Suddenly, all the cultivators seemed to gather together, as their great path resonated with one another, forming a supreme battle matrix. A boundless and massive deity appeared, raising his hand to blast out a punch. This punch pierced through heaven and earth, pulverizing the void as the divine light shielded the divine fist, making it invincible. Boom! The gigantic palm prints were penetrated. At the same time, people of all the top forces in other directions were also taking shot in turns. In the direction of the Devil Realm, a shocking demonic blade slashed down and split the sky open. It smashed through the humongous palm prints that came down and continued moving forward with great momentum, slaughtering into the images of ancient gods that were being conjured up by their opponent. The Lost Clan may be tyrannical, but in the end, it was just a single principality, and the enemies they faced were the ruling powers of all the worlds. Except for the absence of the Imperial Palace of Divine Prefecture, all other principalities had dispatched Imperial-level representatives here. Under such conditions, it would be very difficult for the Lost Clan to overcome such an alliance of all the worlds. Looking at this battlefield, Futian was a little concerned for the Lost Clan. The Lost Clan could not afford to lose this battle. If they lost, it would be total destruction. They would fight to the death, but those cultivators from the other worlds would not spare any of them either. Chapter 2344 The Depth of the Lost Clan. At the Shini continent, with the Lost Clan at the center, a petrifying golden glory now permeated and radiated over the entire continent. The continent was colored by a dusky glow that shrouded the whole continent under its brilliance. Looking down from up on high, it was clear that what radiated over the entire continent was, in fact, a gigantic matrix covering the vast expanse of Shini continent. Within this enormous matrix, splendid pictures and patterns could clearly be made out. In these patterns, one could vaguely see ancient gods standing there, blending into the matrix as if they were part of it. This mammoth of a supermatrix was the result of generational efforts by the ancestors of the Lost Clan. After they had perished, some ancestors chose to integrate the last of their will into the matrix and became part of it. For countless years, this super-colossal matrix had absorbed the will of many ancestors in the Lost Clan. Today, it had become a truly terrifying supermatrix. Relying only on this supermatrix, the Lost Clan was able to stay safe while traveling through the space of the void except in the most dangerous situations. The Shini continent was not alone. The land of the Lost Clan also lit up with an incomparably splendid divine brilliance. The Lost Clan's secret zone paradise was shrouded with a terrifying golden divine glory, which then gradually disappeared until nothing was left as if it had never been there before. This sight shocked many cultivators, and they remembered the words previously spoken by the cultivator from the Lost Clan. If the Lost Clan were defeated, they would not allow outsiders to enter the Lost Clan's secret zone paradise. They would rather destroy it than allowing these outside cultivators to get what they wanted. Perhaps, what the Lost Clan had said was the truth. Inside the battlefield, the sky and the earth shattered, the space collapsed, and terrifying attacks collided. Many cultivators were injured, including some who were considered really powerful. However, that supremely aggressive battle matrix of the rocks also sustained damages with those repeated attacks. Cracks began appearing until they finally collapsed and shattered. For this, the cultivators from all sides paid a heavy price. Some of the powerful cultivators had survived the divine tribulation of the Great Path, but they, too, had been severely injured by it. After the battle matrix of the rocks was broken, both sides were immediately stationed in different positions above the firmament. Major figureheads stood scattered, an astonishing aura bursting from each of them. The atmosphere was so powerful that it was simply chilling. Are there this many top figures in the Lost Clan? There was a slight disturbance in the hearts of these cultivators. The Lost Clan was not facing just one group of forces but many top powers of the Divine Prefecture and cultivators from other worlds. The lineup was so powerful that it was almost something that no existence could contend with. The fact that the Lost Clan was able to hold them off was, in itself, quite an astonishing feat. This clearly demonstrated the terror the Lost Clan was capable of. After the two sides separated, a cultivator from Divine Prefecture looked at those great cultivators from the Lost Clan across the air and said loud and clear, "The battle matrix collapsed. If you continue to fight, it will probably spell total disaster for the Lost Clan. Are you sure you want to do this?" "Yes, we just wanted to go into the secret zone paradise to see what was so amazing about the Lost Clan's cultivation method. We never thought about eradicating the Lost Clan. There is still time for you to change your minds now. There is no need to engage in such a huge fight." Someone else piped up, urging the cultivators from the Lost Clan to give up their resistance and allow them entry into the secret zone paradise to cultivate. "I would also like to reiterate and remind you that the Lost Clan did not come here to be your enemy. Our only goal to come to the original realm was just to cultivate quietly. But if you are insisting on taking such an aggressive stance against us, the Lost Clan will fight you at all costs," the cultivator from the Lost Clan replied. "At all costs?" All the cultivators directed their gazes toward the man who spoke. Before, they had some reservations and didn't really intend to act on it. But now that they had reached this juncture, if they were to fight an all-out war, how would the Lost Clan contend with that? "Does the Lost Clan really want to disappear forever from this world?" one cultivator asked in a threatening tone. "Long live the Lost Clan!" a solemn voice declared as those words reverberated throughout the world. Then, all those hands clasped together with divine light lingering as that somber voice still ranging throughout the space. On the ground below, that matrix, which was covering the entire Shini continent, seemed to be coming alive now. Endless rays of glory bloomed outward, rushing straight into the firmament. In an instant, a shining radiance enveloped the entire continent, and a voice seemed to be speaking from an era long forgotten, passing through time and space to awaken those ancestors of theirs. Boom! A terrifying sound was heard, accompanied by the blooming of countless divine lights. Phantoms appeared above the sky as cultivators from the Lost Clan stepped up towards those phantoms, as if to merge with them. Using the Matrix to fight? Everyone's eyes narrowed, and only then did they realize that this superb and gigantic Matrix was not only protecting the Shini continent from invasions but could also be awakened to fight and produce a certain connection with the cultivators of the Lost Clan. A real ancient deity appeared, standing tall between heaven and earth. It felt extremely massive. He glanced towards the space below, and a horrific golden divine glory beamed out from his brow chakra, which instantly turned into countless golden lightning, smashing down at the cultivators below. "Watch out!" someone cautioned as the cultivators beneath had sensed imminent danger. Suddenly, the group of men began to dodge and evade with incredible speed. But at the same time, in different positions above the sky, ancient gods emerged one after another. The top figures from the Lost Clan had integrated into them, resonating with the Matrix and emitting golden divine light. This was far more terrifying than the battle matrix of the rocks from before. It seemed that this was the truly superb battle matrix, the one that had kept Shini continent protected. Those golden divine lights were like rays of spatial destruction. The space over which these rays passed was instantly penetrated. Whether it was a solid object or the void, everything those rays touched was bound to be pierced and destroyed. This was the ability used by the Lost Clan while they were traveling through the dark space to find a way out. It could pierce through the boundless space, and it bore through it effectively. Puff! Atop Renhuang was shot by the divine light of space. As his body was pierced by the light, his face paled and was overcome by a look of hopelessness. Then, as clusters of spatial divine glory hitting him at the same time, his body was torn apart and shattered, pulverized into nothingness. He died instantly. How powerful! When Futian saw this, his heart trembled with awe. Above the firmament, ancient gods seemed to be standing watch over them all. The power of those ancestors seemed to have been awakened and integrated into the matrix, and echoed the power exuded from the cultivators of the Lost Clan. The resonance erupted with the power of destruction, which was absolutely devastating for cultivators from every side. It seems that they have underestimated the Lost Clan, Emperor Nen observed. The depth of this ancient clan that had traveled through the dark world for countless years was truly frightening. Their strength could not be countered simply by one principality alone. Unless powerful forces, such as Empty Mountain and Devil Imperial Palace, united all of their top cultivators, they could not possibly stand a chance. However, the problem was that only a small number of their best cultivators were dispatched here. Chapter 2345 Sanctuary. Break up the matrix, said a voice from the crowd as cultivators from all major forces converged into one. The cultivators from Empty Mountain were in one camp, while cultivators from the Devil World were in another. With so many cultivators assembling their strengths at the same time, small battle matrices began to form. Cultivators from Empty Mountain took the initiative and attacked. Suddenly, countless fist auroras blasted toward the firmament. The cultivators from the Devil World were even more terrifying. They had summoned infinite demonic blades into being. As the demonic will tossed and rumbled, demon gods appeared to unleash the demonic blades at the same time. Most horrific was that amongst them, an even greater demonic god was gathering these hundreds and thousands of demonic blades into one, smashing it across the void as if intending to split open this corner of the sky. The sight was too shocking to describe. Among the cultivators of the Lost Clan who were in charge of the Matrix, there were clearly a few frightening existences that had survived the second divine tribulation of the Great Path. Now, coupled with the strength of the Matrix, they had erupted with an astonishing offensive prowess. Every cultivator from the top forces in Divine Prefecture was looking for the weak points of this sky-sheltering matrix. They attacked those weak points again and again. In a short few moments, many horrific attacks had already exploded on this battlefield. Furthermore, cultivators from other major forces began to fall one after the other, greatly alarming those from other top forces. Although they had anticipated some danger ahead of the battle, they did not envision it would be this serious. Despite all the forces being combined, they were still caught off guard in such a short period of time. However, these were, after all, forces of the top existence in the world. Even though the Lost Clan had leveraged the amazing strength of this supermatrix, they were still affected by the simultaneous attacks of these powerful cultivators. The ancient gods shook as they were perched above the firmament, and the light screen started to crack. The combined attacks from these cultivators were so terrifying, especially the demonic blades of the cultivators from the Devil World, which contained shocking power that was enough to cleave open the heavens. Futian and the others did not participate in the battle, but they were also in this space since the battlefield had covered just about all the surrounding areas. They had no way to hide under the matrix, so they were affected to a certain extent. However, the cultivators from the Lost Clan were attacking with restraint and did not send any heavy blows in their direction. Therefore, they were still able to hold up their defenses, even though they had to contend with the threat of the aftershocks. But this battlefield was getting a bit too frightening now. Futian thought that it was a waste for those top figures to be slain like this. If they hadn't so greedily grabbed for the secret zone of the Lost Clan, they wouldn't perish today. Crack! A crisp sound was heard at the same time as some ancient gods were being shattered. They were breached in an extremely tyrannical attack. It was the cultivators from the devil world who broke out of their passive stance first, breaking down an ancient god, which injured several cultivators from the Lost Clan. Suddenly, cultivators from other major positions also began their counterattacks. The Lost Clan took the initiative and attacked first. They leveraged the will of their ancestors to power up the Matrix. But a sustained battle would probably still be highly risky to the Lost Clan and will put them at a disadvantage, said Futian. The cultivators next to him nodded slightly, echoing his sentiment. After all, these people were powerful cultivators in their own rights. Each of them was a peak existence in their own world, in possession of terrifying means and methods. Once they started to unleash their strongest measures against the Lost Clan, defeat was just a matter of time. In this battle, it was highly possible that both sides would suffer major losses, with the Lost Clan facing an even more bleak outcome. However, judging from the resolve and determination of the Lost Clan, even if they were defeated, they would make these challengers pay dearly for their victory. The battle continued. However, at this moment, an extremely overpowering aura suddenly spread from above the firmament. It was not on the battlefield but from outside the battlefield. After that, everyone saw the most radiant and glorious glow sprinkling down on this space, covering the entire Shini continent. Ha! Futian and the others were caught by surprise as that infinite glow continued to sprinkle with incredible brilliance. At the same time, an amazing atmosphere permeated from it. Someone is coming, Futian said. Under that endless glow, a group of ethereal figures emerged. This group of cultivators was surrounded by extremely dazzling divine light. Their leader was a woman that resembled a goddess. She had an incomparable radiance, and her beauty was breathtaking. Her noble presence compelled everyone to lower their eyes. Those cultivators who were in the midst of fighting also saw the group that had just descended upon them. Gradually, many people stopped fighting, especially those from Divine Prefecture who had been the first to disengage in battle. Quite a few of them put their hands together and saluted, saying, "Greetings to your Royal Highness the Princess." It turned out that this group of newcomers were cultivators from Donghuang Imperial Palace in the Divine Prefecture. The stunning woman in the lead was Princess Donghuang, who had arrived in person. This was the first time Futian had seen her in 20-some years. This princess seemed to always make her appearance at the most critical moment. He wondered what had brought Princess Donghuang here. Although the cultivators of the Devil World and the empty Divine Realm were not in the same camp as the Imperial Palace of Divine Prefecture, they had to pay their respects now that the ruler of the Divine Prefecture was here. After all, in principle, the original realm belonged to the Divine Prefecture, and where they stood now was under the jurisdiction of the Divine Prefecture. As all the major cultivators stopped their offensives, the cultivators from the Lost Clan, likewise, retracted their aura and did not continue fighting. They seemed to know who had arrived. After they came to the original realm, they had made some inquiries about the original realm as well as the Divine Prefecture. It was obvious that they knew the Master of Divine Prefecture had descended upon them. The ruler of Divine Prefecture, Donghuang Imperial Palace, could very possibly be the one who determines the fate of the Lost Clan. An elder from the Lost Clan bowing slightly and said, "The Lost Clan has been in exile since time immemorial. Now that we have come upon the land of the original realm under the rule of Divine Prefecture, we hope the Imperial Palace will forgive us for our intrusion." Princess Donghuang looked at the cultivators from the Lost Clan below, and nodded slightly. Many were surprised when they beheld this sight. They could detect something from Princess Donghuang's attitude towards the Lost Clan. If she wanted to protect the Lost Clan, things would become much thornier. Salutations to Princess Donghuang, from cultivators of the human realm. The person heading the congregation of the human realm smiled as he greeted the princess. "All of you from the human realm, welcome," Princess Donghuang responded. The cultivator from the human realm continued, "My master has never forgotten about Donghuang the Elder. Is everything well with the great emperor?" "Thank you, Elder. My father has been cultivating diligently and has been thinking of you often, Elder." The two chatted casually like good friends but were, in fact, not as familiar with each other as they appeared to be. "If opportunity allows, we would like to go to the Imperial Palace to greet Donghuang the Great personally." "Very well," Princess Dongwang nodded slightly, appearing quite at ease. She then surveyed the crowd and said, "This continent has traveled through the darkness until it came upon the land of the original realm. Since it is here now, it is considered part of the original realm. From now on, the Shini continent will also be a member of the 3,000 realms of the Great Path in the original realm. It will be managed under the jurisdiction of the Lost Clan as a part of the original realm, belonging to Divine Prefecture under the command of the Imperial Palace. Lost Clan, are you willing to accept these conditions?" These words from Princess Dongwang stunned everyone who had heard them, and many cultivators changed their expression. They clearly understood that this was Princess Dongwang giving the Lost Clan a chance to survive. By asking the Lost Clan to accept the authority of Dongwang Imperial Palace as a part of the Divine Prefecture under the jurisdiction of the Imperial Palace, Dongwang Imperial Palace may then legitimize its involvement in the whole affair. This was giving the Lost Clan a chance to make a choice. Of course, the Lost Clan was free to refuse. But in that scenario, it was very possible that the Imperial Palace from Divine Prefecture would choose not to intercede. After all, for Dongwang the Great to dominate all of Divine Prefecture, his concerns had to be much broader, and he would never involve the Imperial Palace in an all-out battle with several other major worlds on behalf of some irrelevant clans. Naturally, the finer points of this reasoning were not lost on the Lost Clan. Therefore, after hearing the pronouncements from Princess Dongwang, the elder of the Lost Clan hesitated only for a moment before he made a decision. Determination flashed through his eyes as he replied, "The Lost Clan is willing to submit to Dongwang Imperial Palace and accept the command of the Imperial Palace. From now on, we shall be a part of the 3,000 realms of the Great Path in the original realm." When they heard the reply from the Lost Clan, the cultivators from other forces were not thrilled, to say the least. Under such circumstances, it was obvious that Dongwang Imperial Palace would be involved. If so, it would be extremely difficult to move against the Lost Clan again, especially for principalities from the Divine Prefecture. Princess Dongwang surveyed the crowd around her slowly and said, "All the forces from Divine Prefecture, hear me well. Now that the Lost Clan belongs to Divine Prefecture and has accepted the command of our Imperial Palace, please do not treat the Lost Clan as a foreign invading force. If opportunities allow in the future, you should befriend one another and learn together." Indeed, Princess Dongwang intervened with her influence, and she had started with the principalities from Divine Prefecture first. Many from the top forces in Divine Prefecture appeared pensive as their eyes flickered and their brains were thinking hard. They found the current circumstance a little hard to swallow, especially those who had lost cultivators in the previous violent exchanges with the Lost Clan. They had not had the chance to settle these scores before they were asked to drop the matter altogether and get along with the Lost Clan. Then, had those cultivators who had perished died in vain? "Princess, my brothers-in-arms fell at the hands of the Lost Clan. Where is our justice?" a cultivator asked. He was the cultivator of the ancient God clan. He asked his question bluntly without backing down, not scared even in the face of the Imperial Palace. Princess Dongwang looked at the cultivator and calmly responded, "After this confrontation settles down, if you still ache to settle the score, I will allow you to fight with the Lost Clan. The Imperial Palace will not get between the two of you over personal grievances." The eyes of that cultivator narrowed. She would allow them to fight with the Lost Clan? On the Shini continent, with the tyrannical power displayed by the Lost Clan, even the ancient God clan was an unlikely contender to take them on alone. The difference in power was simply too great. The other side was a major clan made possible by the energy of an entire continent. However, unless but even if they were greatly displeased in their hearts, they could only endure in silence, suffocating on those unspoken words. One glance at Princess Dongwang revealed that the princess was no longer a young lass anymore. After many years of cultivation, she had become even more magnificent and ravishing. Aside from her status and position, she was a peerless empress in her own right. "Since the princess said so, we will have no choice but to put it aside for now," the person responded with a bit of displeasure in his voice. Even facing Princess Dongwang, he was not overly servile. After all, they were not under the direct jurisdiction of the Imperial Palace, and the Imperial Palace could not do much to them. If the Imperial Palace were to come down on them too aggressively, it would risk total and utter alienation. Princess Dongwang didn't seem to display the slightest emotion. She nodded nonchalantly, haughty and indifferent. She glanced at the cultivators from the other worlds and said, "Once upon a time, in a battle long ago, the original realm came under the jurisdiction of Divine Prefecture. Now that changes are upon the original realm, which was why the Divine Prefecture did not object to your presence here, though you were uninvited. As the Lost Clan had recognized and submitted under the authority of the Imperial Palace, accepting its command, everyone, please feel free to disengage and take your leave." Once the Lost Clan agreed to assimilate, then the Imperial Palace of the Divine Prefecture may directly intercede on its behalf, preventing the others from fighting against the Lost Clan. "Princess Dongwang, should this matter be forgotten just like this?" A cold voice queried, and it was a top cultivator from the Dark World, whose tone was tinged with a few degrees of iciness. They had already declared war and broken down the matrix of the Lost Clan. If they continued with this momentum, they would surely take down the Lost Clan sooner rather than later. At this time, the Imperial Palace from Divine Prefecture unexpectedly interfered to prevent the battle from continuing. "Since the Lost Clan has now submitted to Imperial Palace, the Imperial Palace will ask you to stop fighting with the Lost Clan. If you refuse to let this go, you should know that we don't mind taking this as far as it needs to go," Princess Dongwang replied. Divine generals stood guard behind her, creating a frightening atmosphere. Once again, Futian saw Spear Emperor Du. However, this divine general stood behind several other people and didn't seem to occupy too conspicuous a position. Obviously, because of the involvement of peak cultivators from several worlds this time, the Imperial Palace had dispatched a much more powerful delegation than before. For a time, the space was completely silent, as all the cultivators remained hushed. The Lost Clan was already very powerful on its own, and these cultivators, with great difficulties, had paid a heavy price for breaking down their defenses. Now, the top forces from Divine Prefecture would not continue to fight against the Lost Clan, and may even fight for them in this latest reversal of fortunes. As long as Princess Dongwang was around, it would be impossible for the forces of these principalities from Divine Prefecture to get involved further. They had lost considerable strength on their side, but the other side was now being backed up by the supreme power that belonged to Dongwang Imperial Palace. If the battle continued under these conditions, they would most likely suffer losses and have no chance to take down the Lost Clan. Suddenly there was a voice coming out of this silent space, and a cultivator from the human realm said, "The Lost Clan, a major clan in the world of cultivation, has not done anything wrong. If you refuse to give up and insisted on persecuting the Lost Clan, the human realm will not stand idly by." This voice reverberated in the quiet space. The power between Divine Prefecture, the human realm, and the Lost Clan was enough to stymie any hopes for the other worlds to vanquish the Lost Clan. But to give it up just like that seemed rather anticlimactic and unsatisfying. "The human realm is indeed the agent of righteousness. How come you didn't intervene and allied with the Lost Clan earlier?" A cultivator from the Dark World commented, his words dripped with thick sarcasm, full of unsaid accusations. It seemed that when the Imperial Palace of Divine Prefecture had arrived, the human realm was much more willing to stand beside the Imperial Palace. Together, they had completely cut off any recourses the Dark World may have. "Since the Imperial Palace of Divine Prefecture has taken a stance, then we will drop this matter for the time being and will not make further demands on the Lost Clan." A cultivator from the empty Divine Realm piped up to show that they were willing to let it go. In this case, what choice do they really have but to call it quits? However, now that the original realm is going through these changes, I'm sure Dongwang the Great must know very well that while we can agree not to touch the Lost Clan, the control of the original realm should be relinquished now. The turbulence in the original realm means that it shouldn't no longer be under the control of any single entity. Everyone was surprised because none of them expected the empty Divine Realm to make a statement of this nature. The Imperial Palace of Divine Prefecture had always regarded itself as the master of the original realm, and now it was time for a change. This was a thought shared by cultivators from the Dark World as well as the Devil World, and their attention now fixed solely on Princess Dongwang. Chapter 2347 Incoming Storm. Control over the original realm? Princess Dongwang looked at the cultivators from various worlds. Although the original realm was still ruled over by the Divine Prefecture in name, in reality, the current huge changes in the realm were known by all the cultivators from various worlds. Did they truly consider the original realm to be the territory of the Divine Prefecture? If they truly did consider it to be so, beside causing a commotion in the original realm, they would need the permission of the Divine Prefecture to even step foot into it. Clearly, the various forces no longer had their reservations. Since the original realm was still considered to be under the jurisdiction of the Divine Prefecture in name, the Divine Prefecture would not let it go no matter what happened to it. This appeared to be meaningless, but it was crucial. At the end of the day, the Divine Prefecture had the moral high ground, and the forces of the various worlds were at a disadvantage on this front. Princess Dongwang declared, "The jurisdiction of the original realm has already been determined for centuries. More than 20 years ago, a huge war erupted in the original realm, and the Divine Prefecture still emerged victorious. Now, the Divine Prefecture doesn't want to dwell on this matter. The original realm belonged to the Divine Prefecture in the past and will remain so for the future." Her voice was arrogant and authoritative. The reality that the original realm belonged to the Divine Prefecture was unshakable, and would remain unchanged for eternity. "I heard that the original realm already has a ruler. The cultivators of the 3,000 realms of the Great Path all pledge their allegiance to this new ruler. The influence of the Divine Prefecture Imperial Palace is most likely not as strong as his." A cultivator of the Dark World provoked with a sinister smile. The various cultivators naturally knew who he was referring to. Everyone knew that the current direct ruler of the original realm was Futian, the college chief of the Heavenly Mandate Academy. He was also the palace lord of Ziwei Imperial Palace. Futian was considered the ruler of the original realm by its members. He also fought for the original realm. Countless cultivators of the 3,000 realms of the Great Path acknowledged him and the Heavenly Mandate Academy. In contrast, the Divine Prefecture Imperial Palace had limited influence over the 3,000 realms of the Great Path. Its influence was certainly not as strong as Futian's. Futian, the college chief of the Heavenly Mandate Academy, has unified the various forces of the 3,000 realms of the Great Path and fights for their sake. He protects the cultivators of the original realm and rules over the original realm on behalf of the Divine Prefecture Imperial Palace. The Imperial Palace believes he has done superbly. Are there any problems with that?" replied Princess Dongwang as she stared indifferently at the cultivator of the Dark World. She claimed that Futian was ruling over the original realm on behalf of the Divine Prefecture Imperial Palace, and that Futian and the Heavenly Mandate Academy were under their jurisdiction. There was no issue with her statement. However, what did Futian think about this? Many people looked at Futian. Yet, Futian's expression remained the same as before, showing no changes. They could not get a read on him. Was he ruling over the original realm on behalf of the Divine Prefecture Imperial Palace? Futian never thought of it that way before. The Imperial Palace was its own entity. However, the original realm was the place where he grew up and cultivated. He had emotional attachments to the Heavenly Mandate Academy and the 3,000 realms of the Great Path. He unified the lands of the original realm in the hopes that they would prosper and survive through this chaotic era instead of disintegrating and having countless lives lost to the chaos. While he was doing so, the Divine Prefecture Imperial Palace had not interfered at all. In terms of a sense of belonging, he naturally had none for the Divine Prefecture Imperial Palace. Moreover, he was still not clear about the matters back then. Dongwang the Great might even be his enemy. However, he did not leap out to deny Princess Dongwang's words. The Heavenly Mandate Academy ruled over the original realm by relying on Master's deterrence to survive in this chaotic world. Otherwise, many forces would have long attacked them. They still needed the backing of the Divine Prefecture Imperial Palace. Forsaking the Divine Prefecture Imperial Palace and proclaiming himself a ruler now? That would be suicide. As for the cultivators around Futian, they all had their own thoughts. Many of them had high expectations for Futian. They even believed that Futian would walk the path to the top in the future and make the original realm an independent world. However, this path would certainly be full of thorns. How many would be buried along the way? For Futian, his most important goal currently was further developing himself. There is no problem, the cultivator of the Dark World said as he looked at Princess Dongwang. Since the Divine Prefecture does not wish to relinquish control of the original realm and wishes to meddle in the affairs of the Lost Clan, then, we have no choice but to return and inform the Great Emperor and ask him to open the door of darkness. When that happens, I hope the Divine Prefecture will not regret this. As he said this, he looked at the cultivators of the Empty Mountain as well as the Devil World and said, "There is a prophecy that claims that the changes to the worlds will begin with the original realm. Does the Evil Emperor and the Devil Emperor have no thoughts about this? There seem to be too few members from the Devil World here today." Among the cultivators of the various worlds, the members of the Devil World were the fewest in numbers. Only a group of them had come to the original realm. Aside from the Divine Prefecture, the Dark World was the second largest group. Cultivators from a large number of their forces kept arriving. Now, the cultivator of the Dark World was threatening to open the door of darkness, most likely with the intention to send a large number of cultivators of the Dark World to the original realm. If that were to happen, the original realm would change completely. No one knew what the outcome would be. "We will naturally return to inform the Evil Emperor about this," a cultivator from the Empty Divine Realm said. "Since the Divine Prefecture is still so domineering, then, let's wait and see." Attacking the Lost Clan today made the cultivators of the Empty Divine Realm feel that they were lacking in number. Recently, many relics appeared in the original realm. They were all relics of the ancient era. Even the shiny continent that was floating among the chaos of the void had appeared. One could imagine how huge a change was occurring in the original realm. The prophecy might possibly come true. Under such circumstances, the various great emperors would certainly send large armies over by opening the doors connected to the original realm. The cultivators of the Devil World also revealed pondering looks. From the looks of it, they also needed to return to inform the Devil Emperor. If the prophecy came true, the original realm might continue to have huge changes. For now, no one knew what changes would occur in the future. Yet if there were too few members of the Devil World present here, they would be at a disadvantage. When Princess Dongwang heard their words, her expression turned cold and indifferent. 3 to 4 centuries ago, the original realm had already faced such a storm. However, the turmoil back then was not even on the scale of what she was seeing now. If it was as the cultivators of the various major forces had said, the next storm in the original realm would be unprecedented. The various worlds might choose the original realm to be the battlefield for their conflict. Futian's facial expression was the ugliest of them all. Now, he ruled over the original realm and protected the 3,000 realms of the Great Path. If what the other parties said were true, the original realm would undoubtedly be where the forces of the other worlds faced off against each other. The original realm would become a battlefield. For the members here, this was practically a catastrophe. No one knew what would happen then. Crucially, all of this was happening too fast. The appearance of the Lost Clan had accelerated this change. His cultivation was still not strong enough. Without having reached the peak of the Renhuang Plain, it was difficult for him to handle these changes. When Futian thought of this, he was somewhat concerned. The cultivators of various forces of the Divine Prefecture all had their own agendas. They were not united with the Divine Prefecture Imperial Palace. If the original realm completely fell into chaos, they would instead seize the opportunity to enrich themselves. Chapter 2348. The storm has settled temporarily. In the quiet space, Princess Dongwang glanced around at the crowd. Were they threatening the Divine Prefecture? However, the situation in the original realm had now changed. An ancient continent like the shiny continent had actually appeared out of thin air. The cultivators of various worlds couldn't sit there and do nothing. After all, before this, the Lost Clan of the shiny continent had displayed terrifying combat ability. On top of that, many other relics had appeared before this. How many secrets were waiting to be explored in the original realm now? The changes of the worlds would begin with the original realm. The various worlds would believe this prophecy to have come true, and they would keep sending their cultivators over to the original realm. The various worlds had been at peace for countless years. Now, they would soon choose the original realm as the battlefield for their conflict. It seemed to be pushed by the general trend of events, and would most likely be unchangeable. Then, we shall wait and see, declared Princess Dongwang as she swept a glance over the crowd. If the various worlds wanted to lead their armies over here, then the Divine Prefecture would answer with their own. This fight was inevitable. Everything that happened today was originally targeted at the Lost Clan. However, no one imagined that it would escalate to such a situation. It appeared that the various worlds would invade the original realm and contest over it. Such a shocking development had been stirred up. Futian secretly sighed. From the looks of it, the original realm becoming a battlefield was already inevitable. He had no means of stopping such a development. If that is the case, farewell, the cultivator of the Dark World said. Then, he left with the other cultivators. The cultivators of the forces of the empty divine realm, the Devil World, and the other worlds also left the region of the Lost Clan. When they left, their figures bore frightening auras. The fires of war had been lit. The various forces left very quickly. Only the cultivators of the Divine Prefecture Imperial Palace, the Heavenly Mandate Academy, as well as the human realm remained and had yet to leave. The elder of the Lost Clan bowed slightly at Princess Dongwang and said, "Princess, many thanks for helping us get out of that predicament. The Lost Clan is grateful." Although the Lost Clan were prepared to face anything, if the battle were to truly break out, they would most likely face annihilation. After all, the other party was the allied forces of the various worlds. Even though their Lost Clan was powerful, it would still be difficult for them to stand against such a force. You have seen everything. The armies of the various worlds will be coming. The doors of the original realm will be completely opened. The Shin'i continent has now come to the original realm. You are now part of it and under the jurisdiction of the Divine Prefecture. You will not be able to sit out of this. If there is a war, I hope that the Lost Clan will also lend their aid, said Princess Dongwang as she glanced at the cultivators of the Lost Clan. The Lost Clan had to play their part since they had chosen to submit to the authority of the Divine Prefecture. If the Divine Prefecture engaged in war with the other worlds, then the Lost Clan needed to obey the orders from the Divine Prefecture Imperial Palace. Since our clan has agreed to your request, we will certainly keep our promise. We won't sit idly and do nothing, declared the elder of the Lost Clan. Moreover, our clan has lost the freedom to stay away from this conflict. The various worlds had come here to attack the Lost Clan. Even if the Lost Clan intended to stay out of the conflict, would the cultivators from the various worlds possibly agree to that? They would most likely still attack the Lost Clan after they managed to defeat the army of the Divine Prefecture. Princess, we've enraged the various worlds this time around. If they join forces to attack the Divine Prefecture, we'll most likely face a huge crisis, a cultivator from the ancient god clan said while looking at Princess Dongwang. The cultivators who left the place were people from the Dark World, the empty Divine Realm, and the Devil World. Even during the previous war, the cultivators from the Divine Prefecture had not faced such a situation. If the other three major worlds decided to declare war on the Divine Prefecture, the latter had no chance of winning. Princess Dongwang looked at the speaker and said, "The other three major worlds each have their own agendas. They might not join forces. If they really do, I hope all of you can contribute to defeating them. Right now, the original realm has undergone many changes. All of you should return to the Divine Prefecture first and summon cultivators from your respective clans to come here. Otherwise, if anything were to happen in the original realm, you might have a difficult time handling the situation." The cultivators of the Divine Prefecture were of different minds when they heard Princess Dongwang's order. However, on the surface, everyone nodded in agreement. They said, "Since that's the case, we'll take our leave here." Princess Dongwang nodded. The cultivators of the Divine Prefecture gradually left the place. Quite a lot of cultivators gave the cultivators of the Lost Clan a cold glance before they left. They were somewhat unsatisfied with what happened today. However, they couldn't do anything given the current situation. Therefore, they could only play by the ear from now on. After the cultivators of the Divine Prefecture left, Princess Dongwang looked at Yi Futian. Yi Futian was also staring at her. It was not their first time meeting each other. They met once back in the city of Qinzhou. They were both youths at that time. However, back then, one of them was exalted while the other was still a commoner. They weren't even people of the same status. Now, Yi Futian was almost at the same strata as this princess of the Divine Prefecture. Greetings, princess. Many thanks for giving me the divine item as a present in the past, said Yi Futian as he bowed slightly. Regardless of how their relationship would turn out in the future, it was undeniable that Princess Dongwang was the one who saved him when he was surrounded by various forces 20 years ago. The divine item that Princess Dongwang gifted him allowed him to go to the Divine Prefecture. Back then, you defeated the cultivators from the Dark World and the empty Divine Realm. The item was a reward for you. You don't have to thank me for it, explained Princess Dongwang. Now you control the forces in the original realm. The Imperial Palace has also heard of your achievements. In the future, if war were to erupt in the original realm, I hope you'll try your best to protect the place. Understood, Yi Futian responded. It's just that the current original realm is still weak. We don't have any cultivators who have survived the second tribulation of the Great Path. If the cultivators from the various worlds were to attack us, I'm afraid that the forces in the original realm are no match for them. When that time comes, I hope the Divine Prefecture Imperial Palace will send aid to hold the fort. Compared to most forces in the Divine Prefecture, the original realm represented by the Heavenly Mandate Academy was already a superpower. However, if the various worlds sent their top cultivators over, the Heavenly Mandate Academy that lacked existences who had survived the second tribulation would appear somewhat lackluster. Princess Dongwang lowered her head and glanced at Yi Futian down below. Was he trying to set conditions with her? I will make my own arrangements, answered Princess Dongwang indifferently. There will be a storm in the original realm. I will return to the Imperial Palace. Farewell, Princess, said Yi Futian as he bowed slightly. Princess Dongwang turned to leave. The cultivators of the human realm said, Princess, we will see you off. As they said this, their figures dashed up into the sky and left with Princess Dongwang's entourage. Only the cultivators of the Lost Clan and the cultivators of the Heavenly Mandate Academy were left. The elder of the Lost Clan glanced at Yi Futian and said, Renhuan Yi, many thanks for your help today. I haven't done anything worthy of your thanks, said Yi Futian as he shook his head. Renhuan Yi is benevolent. If you had attacked with the other cultivators before this, the battle matrix of the rocks would have fallen, the elder said. Our Lost Clan has no means of repaying this favor. Renhuan Yi, please come in and be our guest. That won't be necessary, said Yi Futian as he shook his head. Soon, there will be a huge change in the original realm. I need to return to prepare. I fear that there will be a bloodbath in the future. The elder of the Lost Clan was stunned. He looked at Yi Futian and then nodded his head and said, If that is the case, we will not delay you any longer. Renhuan Yi, you must come visit us when you have the chance. Gladly, replied Yi Futian as he saluted the cultivators of the Lost Clan with his fists. He then left with the cultivators of the Heavenly Mandate Academy. They did not stay with the Lost Clan. As they watched Yi Futian leaving, the cultivators of the Lost Clan gathered together. They stared at his silhouette as it disappeared from view and said, It appears that this man is truly selfless. With the abilities he displayed, he doesn't need to covet the cultivation techniques of the Lost Clan. Prior to this, he has already inherited the abilities of several great emperors, said the elder of the Lost Clan. He clearly had a certain level of understanding of Yi Futian. Chapter 2349 The Arrival of All Parties. After Yi Futian and the others returned to the Heavenly Mandate Academy, they got busy with preparations. They sent the weaker cultivators to the Z-Way segmentum via the teleportation Grand Matrix. The original realm was about to face a huge change. The heavenly mandate realm was in far more danger than the Ziwei segmentum. With the will of great Emperor Ziwei in the Ziwei segmentum, even if Yi Futian and his group were threatened, not many forces dared to attack the segmentum outright. In contrast, the heavenly mandate realm was far more dangerous and prone to attacks. Although Master had descended upon the lower worlds during the previous battles and served as a deterrent for all the forces, it was different this time. A storm would soon sweep over the original realm. The top powers of various worlds would be involved, and great Emperor-level forces would participate directly in this battle. With such backgrounds, the other parties would not be concerned with Master. If Master intervened when the battle ensued, the forces of the Dark World, the empty Divine Realm, and the Devil World all had great Emperor-level existences as well. Hence, Yi Futian had no choice but to be cautious just in case. While Yi Futian's side was busy preparing, the cultivators of the various worlds were also doing the same. For a period of time, the original realm suddenly became exceptionally quiet. None of the forces stirred up trouble. The cultivators from some forces were still exploring the endless void of the original realm, but fewer conflicts broke out. Everyone understood that this was the calm before the storm. The various forces were all waiting. The original realm was about to face an unprecedented event. For now, the various forces did not dare act recklessly. As time passed, more and more cultivators arrived in the original realm. The first to arrive were the various top forces from the Divine Prefecture. Although some of them had already arrived in the original realm prior to this, that was only a portion of their forces. However, after the battle with the Lost Clan, they had no choice but to bolster their forces. In the Divine Prefecture, Donghuang Imperial Palace had also sent out a decree to the 18 domain chiefs' manors. By the will of the great Emperor, the 18 domain chiefs' manors were ordered to lead the cultivator forces in each domain to the original realm. After receiving this command, they informed the top forces in each domain, and then sent their cultivators over to the original realm. At the same time, in different locations of the original realm, more and more forces from the Dark World, the empty Divine Realm, and the human realm arrived. Currently, in the original realm, there had never been such a powerful lineup of cultivators. In a corner of the original realm, a towering demonic might churned and roared. It was then followed by the sky ripping apart. A terrifying demonic black hole appeared. One by one, figures emerged from it. The cultivators who arrived could no longer be called a group, they were a troop. They were a troop of armies from the Devil World. Mei Ting was here today too. He had personally come over to welcome the members from the Devil World. When he saw the arrival of the army, his heart also trembled violently. From the looks of it, the Devil Emperor had personally commanded the various forces in the Devil World to gather and send their cultivators over to the original realm. The cultivator who led the troop from the Devil World had exceptional temperament. He wore a jet-black robe, and his long black hair danced in the wind. His facial features were chiseled, and he was very handsome. However, he seemed somewhat arrogant. His dark eyes were deep like black holes. A formidable aura permeated from his body. Standing there, he appeared like the master of the world. Mei Ting approached the cultivator. The former actually bowed slightly as he greeted. Demon Sage! Mei Ting was shocked. Demon Sage, who seldom left the Devil World, had actually arrived in the original realm. Only the command of the Devil Emperor could spur Demon Sage into action. Even the Devil Emperor placed great importance on the current original realm. In the original realm, in the empty Imperial Palace of the Central Emperor Realm, a brilliant divine light shone down from the sky. Then, a group of people appeared. The Palace Lord of the empty Imperial Palace personally came out to welcome them. The Palace Lord bowed and greeted the cultivator who led the group. The incomers were the cultivators from the Donghuang Imperial Palace. They had led their armies here to the Central Emperor Realm. Aside from them, some other forces of the Divine Prefecture and the Domain Chief's manors had landed in the Central Emperor Realm too. In reality, many of the top forces from the Divine Prefecture had arrived before the cultivators from the Donghuang Imperial Palace. After the cultivators of the Donghuang Imperial Palace descended in the Central Emperor Realm, various forces of the Divine Prefecture also hastened and made their way towards the realm. A group landed in the region that was previously occupied by the Shin clan. Dazzling divine halos of the Great Path surrounded this group of cultivators. They were none other than the Shin clan from the upper worlds. Back then, many members of the Shin clan from the lower worlds died in battle. The survivors left the place, and the clan fell apart. Right now, the top cultivators of the Shin clan from the upper worlds had once again arrived in their territory. Many forces arrived and took the Central Emperor realm by storm. Soon, Futian received news of their arrival in the Heavenly Mandate Academy. He immediately issued an order, commanding his allies, such as Nantian Divine Kingdom, Yuanang Clan, Tianshan Academy, and Shao Clan, to temporarily evacuate the Central Emperor realm. All these forces moved towards the Heavenly Mandate Academy. They looked like they were migrating en masse. At the same time, as the various forces of the Divine Prefecture descended upon the Central Emperor realm, numerous cultivators from the empty Divine realm arrived in the Myriad realm. The forces of the Devil world also reached the higher Heavens realm. As for the forces of the Dark world, they were still in the Hidden Land realm as they had been prior to this. The cultivators of the human realm actually also chose the Central Emperor realm, and appeared in the same realm as the cultivators of the Divine Prefecture. Although the various forces did not come in contact with each other, they seemed to have reached a tacit understanding to not disturb each other for now. However, they also similarly took over a realm each. After all, when mobilizing the army of a world, in order for large numbers of cultivators to be able to gather at a moment's notice, they needed to choose a place to set up base. Otherwise, once the battle started, it was easy for them to be singled out and destroyed if they were dispersed. After all, with the current situation in the original realm, no one knew when the battle between the various worlds would begin. In the Heavenly Mandate Academy, news trickled in, causing the cultivators of the Academy to feel unprecedented pressure. This time, they were not just facing one or two top forces. The forces from various worlds had arrived and occupied the 9 realms. Aside from needing a place to set up base, there was another reason for them doing so. It was to challenge the Divine Prefecture's absolute control over the original realm. As for Futian, the ruler of the original realm, he was merely seen as a member of the Divine Prefecture Imperial Palace. Under such circumstances, the 9 realms were beyond his control. He could only relocate all his allies to the Heavenly Mandate realm. If they remained outside among the cultivators of the various worlds, he would feel uneasy as they would constantly be in danger. In the Heavenly Mandate Academy, Futian and the other cultivators gathered. Emperor Nan said, "The cultivators from the various worlds silently arrived and occupied different realms. They are making a statement: the original realm does not belong to the Divine Prefecture alone. They're carving it up." Futian nodded slightly. He understood the intention of the various parties for doing so. Before the chaos, the original realm mainly consisted of the 9 supreme realms. Now, the only realms that were still unblemished were the Central Emperor realm, the Heavenly Mandate realm, the Myriad realm, the Higher Heavens realm, and the Mountain realm. The Central Emperor realm was controlled by the Divine Prefecture. The Heavenly Mandate realm was under the control of the Heavenly Mandate Academy. The cultivators of the empty Divine realm seized control of the Myriad realm while the cultivators of the Devil world invaded the Higher Heavens realm. The Mountain realm belonged to the cultivators of the world of Buddhism. The other forces did not conquer this place for reasons that were self-evident. Buzz. Right at this moment, a cultivator descended from the sky. He was Old Ma. He seemed excited as he straightaway walked up to Futian. "What happened?" Futian asked when he saw Old Ma's expression. "The Shin'i continent is moving towards our Heavenly Mandate realm," reported Old Ma. "The Shin'i continent?" Futian's heart trembled violently. "The entire continent is moving?" "Yes," Old Ma replied while nodding. "I suspect that its movement is controlled by the cultivator of the Lost Clan." All the cultivators were somewhat surprised. "The entire continent was moving?" Emperor Nan said. "Prior to this, the Shin'i continent had been wandering in the endless void. Now, it has appeared in the original realm. The cultivators of the Lost Clan might indeed be controlling the direction of where the continent moves." All the cultivators revealed strange expressions. If what he said was true, then the Shin'i continent might be purposely moving towards the heavenly mandate realm? Just as they were discussing this, a few powerful auras suddenly appeared in the sky above. Dazzling divine light shimmered, and a group of people appeared outside of the Heavenly Mandate Academy. One of the incomers said, "The Lost Clan is here to visit Renhuan Yi Futian and the rest naturally could detect the arrival of the Lost Clan. Yi Futian responded, "Seniors, please come in." After he said this, the cultivators of the Lost Clan entered the Heavenly Mandate Academy, and came straight to where Yi Futian and the rest were. Yi Futian rose from his seat to welcome them. He greeted, "Seniors, welcome to the Heavenly Mandate Academy." Chapter 2350, Alliance of the Continents. Yi Futian invited the cultivators from the Lost Clan to take their places. He was hosting this banquet in their honor. As guests and hosts settled in, Yi Futian said to those from the Lost Clan, "I'm actually a bit surprised that you elders could come to Heavenly Mandate Academy for a visit. I'm here today to discuss some matters with Emperor Yi," said an elder from the Lost Clan. This man was the great elder of the Lost Clan by the name of Sikong Nan. The Sikong family was a powerful family that went back as far as the Lost Clan for generations. When the Lost Clan was established, the Sikong family gave up their own clan to join the Lost Clan. They became its member to guard the Shin'i continent together. "I'm all ears, elder," said Yi Futian. "The Shin'i continent has drifted into the original realm, and Princess Dongwang appeared that day, asking the Lost Clan to be part of the realm. Under these conditions, the Shin'i continent is the same as the Heavenly Mandate realm. We heard that the original realm is currently in a turbulent state, as top forces from all worlds have entered the original realm. Because of this, we would like to move the Shin'i continent here, next to the Heavenly Mandate realm. This way, it is easier for the Lost Clan and Heavenly Mandate Academy to look out for each other. What does Emperor Yi think of that?" Sikong Nan asked. When Yi Futian heard those words from Sikong Nan, he was pleasantly surprised. He said, "The strength of the Lost Clan far exceeds that of Heavenly Mandate Academy. If you are willing to ally with Heavenly Mandate Academy, we feel nothing but gratitude and delight. What other thoughts could we possibly have?" A few days before this, he had been considering the circumstances. The Heavenly Mandate Academy had been declining, and it was now in a weakened state. He did not anticipate that the Lost Clan would come to ask for an alliance with them. With such a powerful ally behind them, the strength of the Heavenly Mandate Academy would increase significantly. "It's most ideal that Emperor Yi has no objections. Besides, I have one other request," Sikong Nan continued. "Please tell." Yi Futian encouraged him again. "The Shin'i continent has been moving through the darkness for so many years. Our main cultivation ability concentrates on tempering the physical body and defensive techniques. I'm sure Emperor Yi has already seen a few examples of that. For generations, the cultivators of the Lost Clan have not been experts at offensive techniques because they were rarely needed. The Shin'i continent has faced threats of death and extinction for as long as we can remember, which meant that none of us had any interest nor use for offensive techniques. However, everything is different now. I was hoping that Emperor Yi could instruct our cultivators on how to cultivate in offensive methods," Sikong Nan explained further. The cultivators from Heavenly Mandate Academy were rather surprised by what they heard. They had seen the prowess of the Lost Clan, but for such a powerful clan to come to Heavenly Mandate Academy and ask Yi Futian to instruct them was unexpected. However, they understood the Lost Clan's reasoning quickly. All of this had to be traced back to their history. Just as the Lost Clan had stated, Shin'i continent had been in a dark storm for a very long time. Their opponents were their environments rather than actual cultivators. Therefore, they had cultivated their defenses to the extreme, whether it be physical or battle matrices. All of them contained supreme defensive capabilities, passed down from one generation to the next while working hard to strengthen them. However, since the offensive techniques were not as useful to their circumstances in the past, there were fewer opportunities to resort to those until they gradually disappeared and were forgotten altogether in their long history. That's not a problem, of course. I will do my best to teach some of the great offensive methods to the elders of the Lost Clan so that these elders may teach them to others in the Lost Clan. Furthermore, in my opinion, many cultivators of the Lost Clan already possessed powerful physical and mental strengths. Even though they had not cultivated in offensive methods, once they started, their own abilities would aid them in mastering these methods far faster, pushing their strength to a higher level. Futian added. The Lost Clan didn't need them before, but times were different now. To enhance their combat effectiveness, the Lost Clan was more than willing. If so, my deepest gratitude to Emperor Yi. In exchange, Emperor Yi may enter some part of our clan's secret zone paradise to cultivate. But you can understand some parts of it, not all. Sikong Nan continued. Understood, we can talk about that later. Elder may allow some other elders from the Lost Clan to come to the Heavenly Mandate Academy. I will take them to different places to cultivate offensive techniques. At which time, they will be able to teach other cultivators, Futian said. Before, when he was controlling the original realm, there were many books in Tianshan Academy. In addition, there was the Imperial Palace in Ziwei Segmentum, as well as Four Corner Village, which also possessed large-scale offensive techniques. All these resources could prove useful in enhancing the combat effectiveness of the Lost Clan. The Lost Clan was so powerful that it would be of great help to the Heavenly Mandate Academy. Of course, he was willing to do this for the Lost Clan because he trusted them. Everything he had seen on the Shini continent before gave him a better understanding of just what kind of clan they were. They were able to convince Ren Huang of the entire continent to fight on their behalf to protect the Lost Clan at all costs. This kind of courage was enough to explain many things. Of course, teaching the Lost Clan their cultivation methods was not an entirely altruistic act. He was not selfless like that. The Heavenly Mandate Academy was still weak, so it was in their benefit to make friends with the powerful Lost Clan. An increase in the strength of the Lost Clan could only help them. Very well. We will have to trouble Emperor Yi then. Sikong Nan nodded. If Yi Futian was willing to help them, he had all the confidence in him. After all, he knew quite a lot about Yi Futian. That day, the Lost Clan had also witnessed his combat effectiveness. Coupled with his character, he was the kind of friend that the Lost Clan was willing to befriend. Because of this, he chose to move Shini Continent next to the Heavenly Mandate Academy. Although the Lost Clan was powerful in and of itself, what happened the other day served as a reminder to the Lost Clan that they, too, were in need of allies. As outsiders who came out of exile in the void, it was easy for them to be treated as the other. This made them an easy target for different principalities. The Heavenly Mandate Academy was already in charge of the original realm, and they held no malice towards the Lost Clan. Even though they were weaker, there was still hope for them. Elder is too kind. Yi Futian raised his cup to make a toast. A terrifying sound came from the sky above. Everyone looked up into the distance, and saw that somewhere far away, there seemed to be a behemoth approaching the Heavenly Mandate realm. At this moment, countless cultivators in the Heavenly Mandate realm were shocked beyond belief. They felt that the earth beneath their feet was quaking. It was as if outside the firmament, something massive was approaching. What's that? As the quakes were getting stronger, all the Heavenly Mandate realm cultivators felt their hearts beating madly. Even though the thing was still far away, they could vaguely see something coming. Some powerful cultivators levitated into the sky to look further into the distance. It's a continent, someone whispered, making the hearts of everyone around him skip a beat. A continent was now approaching the Heavenly Mandate realm. Inside the Heavenly Mandate Academy, Yi Futian and the others watched quietly as the table in front of them was shaking nonstop. The Lost Clan had moved an entire continent here. Finally, with a loud booming sound, the entire Heavenly Mandate realm gave a violent shudder. As the trembling slowly calmed down, another continent appeared next to the Heavenly Mandate realm. It was the Shini continent. Would you like to take a look? Sikong Nen asked with a smile. Yes, an elder can pick some candidates from the Lost Clan to come back here with me. Yi Futian smiled and nodded as all the cultivators got up to step across the void. It didn't take long before they came to the border between Heavenly Mandate realm and the Shini continent. The two continents sat side by side, a sight that amazed many people. All the cultivators on each of the continents came to the border and looked at the opposite side. They were extremely shocked. What was happening? A continent had actually descended from the sky and settled next to the heavenly mandate realm. From today onward, the Shini continent and the heavenly mandate realm will be adjacent to each other. The lost clan of Shini continent has formed an alliance with the heavenly mandate academy. We will face upcoming changes in the original realm together, Futian declared audibly as he looked below. His voice resounded throughout the boundless space, and the hearts of many shuddered. The Shini continent. The lost clan. Was this the continent with mighty cultivators from the original realm? It was said that the lost clan was extremely powerful. Now, it had formed an alliance with Heavenly Mandate Academy. Let's go take a look on the other side, some cultivators said as they flickered toward the Shini continent. Similarly, the cultivators on the Shini continent were also very curious about the Heavenly Mandate realm, and were making their way in the direction of the Heavenly Mandate realm. An interesting scene appeared. Both sides were heading toward each other's continent. They were curious to explore. Futian and the others looked at everything happening below them quietly. They smiled without saying anything. Let's go, Sikongnan said as the group continued moving forward. It didn't take long before they came to the land of the Lost Clan again. At the same time, the news of the continent's arrival quickly spread through the 9 realms, and the cultivators within the 9 realms all got wind of it. Likewise, those from all major worlds became aware of the matter, and many of them were not pleased. Whatever Futian did that day at the Lost Clan had gained him their friendship, resulting in the Lost Clan taking the initiative to ally with him. Now, the Heavenly Mandate Realm had become an independent force as well, equipped with the qualifications necessary to compete with them. Chapter 2351 Cultivating Like Crazy. Thus, the Heavenly Mandate Academy and the Lost Clan had become allies, and cultivators from both sides moved towards each other's continent. The 2 continents now seemed to be one. Meanwhile, all the forces from outside were paying close attention to what was happening here. At this time, Futian brought the cultivators from the Lost Clan to the Starry Sky world to cultivate. In the Starry Sky, the divine glory of the Imperial Star was shining. Futian pointed to one of the Imperial Stars, which was the one that Blind Tai communicated with back then. Futian said, "This Imperial Star should be suitable for the cultivator of the Lost Clan. It could enhance the physique of those from the Lost Clan. Elders may want to go there and give it a try." Sikongnan nodded slightly. This time he brought some of the Lost Clan's most powerful cultivators to the Ziwei Segmentum and to the Ziwei Imperial Palace's own book collection depository. Before that, Futian had taken them to browse through the books inside Tianshan Academy, and the cultivators from the Lost Clan were madly absorbing and cultivating these methods. Sikongnan looked at a Renhuang of the 9th level next to him. Suddenly the man moved forward, came under the starry sky, and closed his eyes. He was communicating with the Imperial Star. After a while, he successfully established a connection with that Imperial Star. Now that the entire Starry Sky world was under Futian's control, it was no longer as difficult to communicate with the Imperial Star. As long as the cultivation method and the Imperial Star had something in common, a basic resonance was possible. Soon, that cultivator from the Lost Clan was bathing under Imperial glory as he was baptized by the Great Path. His flesh started making crystalline chiming sounds, and his already powerful physique seemed to undergo some kind of change. The other cultivators from the Lost Clan were watching quietly. That power was incredibly strong. No wonder this is the Imperial Star left by the Great Emperor as an inheritance. If it weren't for Emperor Yi, it would have been difficult for us to have this opportunity, Sikongnan said gratefully to Futian. The elder is too kind. Since we are now allies, it is my duty to ensure that the cultivation of all the elders from the Lost Clan improves. In the future, cultivators from the Lost Clan can come to this Starry Sky world to be baptized by the Imperial Star. Apart from that Imperial Star, there might be other Imperial Stars that are suitable for the cultivators of the Lost Clan to cultivate with, Futian said. Sikongnan nodded slightly. Futian had demonstrated sufficient sincerity in this alliance. Not only did he allow them to read the book collections of cultivation, but he had also led them here to be baptized by the Imperial Star. Indeed, he had done all that he could. In a few days I will take you on a trip to the Divine Prefecture, Yi Futian continued. Sikongnan nodded slightly, wondering what they should give to Yi Futian in return. Just as Yi Futian promised, after some time, Yi Futian and the others left the original realm for the Shangqing domain in the Divine Prefecture, and came to Four Corner Village. Yi Futian went to the school first and announced himself. Teacher. Go and do it. The teacher seemed to know Yi Futian's intention in coming here. He answered him directly for a question Futian had not yet asked. Yi Futian was a little surprised, but he then bowed slightly to salute the man inside, saying, Now that the original realm is going through major changes, it was necessary for me to resort to some extraordinary means. I shouldn't be bringing anyone to disturb the village, but in order to increase our strength, I chose to come here. Thank you, teacher. The original realm will be changing, and with all these major worlds participating, I am afraid I won't be able to help you much. What you are doing now is moving in the right direction, but the most important thing is not to forget to improve your own strength. Strengthening yourself is the most fundamental principle. The teacher responded as if to remind Yi Futian. Futian understands. But cultivation is not made in one day's time. I only wish that the great changes in original realm will come a little later, Yi Futian replied. He knew that he needed more time, but the changes in original realm were coming sooner rather than later. With the arrival of the major worlds, he didn't have much time to cultivate independently. It might still take some years for him to reach the peak of Renhuang. That was why he was so anxious to improve the strength of their allies and the cultivators from Heavenly Mandate Academy so that Heavenly Mandate Academy may survive this great impending change. Everything is fated, and the changes happening in the original realm are part of it. Take care of yourself, the teacher said. Go. Yi Futian bowed slightly to the teacher, then turned to leave. In Four Corner Village, a strange aura permeated, which contained the inheritance of divine methods. Like the starry sky world of Ziwei Segmentum, the divine methods inside Four Corner Village were also under Yi Futian's control. He could make these divine methods manifest themselves, thus allowing the cultivators of the Lost Clan to learn from them. Among them was the picture of the domineering golden-pinged bird, divine hammer of the protector, miniature world, and other divine methods. All were suitable for many cultivators from the Lost Clan. After the cultivators of the Lost Clan arrived, with the help of Yi Futian, they greedily absorbed all the cultivation methods made available to them here. As time passed, Yi Futian led the cultivators from the Lost Clan and the Heavenly Mandate Academy to continue elevating their strength. In the lands of other realms, those other cultivators settled in as well and continued exploring the secrets of the original realm. Temporarily, none were making any moves. Cultivators from all sides descended on the original realm, and countless powerful men gathered. However, no one dared to act impulsively. Once a war erupted, it could lead to terrible consequences. Forces from all sides were acting with extreme caution. There was no change in the outside world, and Yi Futian was not about to provoke forces from the outside. He knew what he wanted to do, and he was constantly improving his own strength. After returning from Four Corner Village, the Lost Clan finally invited Yi Futian and a group of people from the Heavenly Mandate Academy to enter the secret zone paradise of the Lost Clan. Furthermore, they opened up many of the Lost Clan's cultivation caves to Yi Futian and his group. It was natural for the Lost Clan to express their gratitude after Yi Futian had actively fulfilled his promises to them. At this time, Yi Futian came to a cave in the secret zone paradise of the Lost Clan. There was a terrifying atmosphere in this cave, and many patterns were carved on the surrounding stone walls. These pictures were all of human shapes. When comprehended with divine consciousness, it was as if he had entered into another world. All the patterns on the stone walls seemed to come alive as ancient deities appeared between heaven and earth. Yi Futian, standing in the middle of it all, appeared exceptionally small, like a grain of sand in the ocean. What was carved here was precisely the battle matrix of the rocks. Because Yi Futian wanted to comprehend the battle matrix of the rocks, the cultivators of the Lost Clan brought him to this cave. According to them, the battle matrix of the rocks was created by the many ancestors of the Lost Clan, and they had carved the battle matrix into this cave paradise. All the ancestors who had first created this battle matrix of the rocks had now fallen. They had sacrificed themselves in the process of protecting the Shini continent. Futian stood quietly in this world of the ancient deities. As he was looking at those ancient godlike figures, there was a heaviness in his eyes. He bowed slightly to the phantoms of these ancient gods because every ancestor of the lost clan here was worthy of his respect. A majestic force permeated, and the coercion landed squarely on Futian. He closed his eyes to comprehend all this. It was as if he was completely immersed in this world. The battle matrix of the rocks he had seen in that great battle before had exerted a mighty force. He was curious if he could comprehend anything from it. Chapter 2352 Idea. In the secret zone paradise, Futian quietly cultivated. It was as though he was in an ethereal space. All around him were ancient gods. The figures of the ancient gods appeared extremely powerful, and their wills filled the sky. Their wills created a miraculous resonance, and seemed to be one being. The battle matrix of the rocks required merging one's will and body of the great path to unleash its power to its utmost limit. However, before one cultivated the battle matrix of the rocks, one needed to cultivate body refinement techniques. The bodies of the cultivators of the Lost Clan were impressive. Aside from that, activating the battle matrix of the rocks required the various cultivators to be of one mind. The wills of the cultivators who activated the battle matrix of the rocks needed to resonate and become one. This was also no easy feat. It necessitated absolute trust between all of the cultivators and needed a special cultivation technique to achieve. From the looks of it, it took a lot of effort for the seniors of the Lost Clan to create the battle matrix of the rocks. Time gradually passed. Futian comprehended the way quietly. After a long while, he finally opened his eyes and retracted his spiritual soul. He looked at the stone walls. Everything seemed to have returned to normal. He turned around and walked out of the secret zone paradise. Outside, Sikong Nan was actually still there. He seemed to have been waiting for Futian all this while, accompanying Futian as he cultivated in the Lost Clan secret zone. The battle matrix of the rocks requires a special cultivation technique to be set up, right? Can I have a look at it? Futian asked Sikong Nan. Of course, replied Sikong Nan as he nodded his head. He led Futian over to the location outside another secret zone paradise. This secret zone paradise is very dangerous. There have been cultivators of the Lost Clan who never made it out after they entered. However, those who wish to cultivate the battle matrix of the rocks will need to go inside. There is a technique inside that tempers one's flesh and will. It is the most direct method for doing so, explained Sikong Nan. However, with Rawan Ye's ability, entering this place should not pose an issue. All right, I will go inside and have a look around, said Futian. He then stepped into the secret zone paradise. Upon entering inside, Futian instantly sensed a terrifying destructive power sweep over him. It felt as though the space was shattering. There were cracks all around him as well as lights of catastrophe. An incomplete space was sealed within the secret zone paradise. Inside, there was also no place to dodge or hide. This, exclaimed Futian as he felt his heart tremble. His flesh shook, and brilliant divine light burst forth from his body of the great path. Destructive winds washed over his figure. The winds were as sharp as blades and attempted to ravage his body. The friction between the winds and his body of the great path actually created screeching sounds. Rumble. An attack seemed to strike his spiritual soul directly. A bolt of black lightning appeared to charge straight into his consciousness. It contained terrifying destructive power. Was this set up to mimic the endless dark region? Futian thought to himself as he walked forward step by step. This secret zone paradise was like a black hole that consumed everything. The further he entered the space, the more terrifying the attack power acting on him became. It seemed endless. The Shini continent had been wandering around the endless darkness. It never saw the light of day and was always faced with calamities. Hence, they mimicked the endless darkness and established this region to temper the cultivators of the Lost Clan. This allowed them to experience and learn to adapt to the power of darkness in the Lost Clan secret zone whenever they wished. Though such a method was well-intentioned, it was very harsh. The Lost Clan did not hold back against their own members. However, if they had not done so, they would have long been destroyed and would not have survived until the present day. What was inside this place? Futian thought. His spiritual soul could not penetrate the storm. As he continued to advance, even more terrifying destructive power attacked his flesh and spiritual soul. Gradually, his flesh shone with brilliant divine light and appeared more and more frightening. It seemed like a divine body of the great path. The will he unleashed also reached an extremely powerful state. Only then could he keep himself steady as he advanced. If even he had to resort to such methods, the cultivators of the Lost Clan would have had an extremely difficult time passing through the secret zone paradise. After passing through the storm of darkness, he came to another space. There was also a stone wall here. On it, the depiction of a cultivation technique was carved. It was a technique to train one's flesh and will. Used in conjunction with the storm in the black hole, it could temper one's flesh and will to an extremely powerful state. That meant that the cultivators who could activate the battle matrix of the rocks had all been here before. Futian closed his eyes and began to cultivate. After a period of time, he left the place and once again met with Sikong Nan. How did it feel? Sikong Nan asked Futian. Futian commented. The seniors of the Lost Clan were admirable for managing to create such cultivation techniques. However, after creating them, the seniors did not derive other methods of attack. They merely utilized this to resolve the crisis of the Shini continent and protect the continent. It is somewhat of a waste. Renhuang Yi, what do you mean by this? Asked Sikong Nan. Futian explained. The battle matrix of the rocks has astonishing defensive power. If the Lost Clan relied on the defense of the matrix and combined it with other offensive techniques, such a combination would be extremely powerful. If you were to face another battle like the one before, you would not need to sacrifice your lives. You could have directly deterred the cultivators of the ancient god clan from the divine prefecture. The requirements for the battle matrix of the rocks are very high. The cultivators in the battle matrix need to have their powers resonate. If they attack individually, it will destroy the balance of the battle matrix. The seniors who created the battle matrix of the rocks did not create attack techniques for it. Does Renhuang Yi have any ideas in mind? Sikong Nan said when he heard Futian's words. He had a pondering look. He seemed to have noticed something from Futian's statement. Replied Futian as he nodded his head. I believe that the battle matrix of the rocks can still be modified so that the cultivators in it can achieve resonance and unleash an art of supreme attack of the great path. That way, the might of the battle matrix of the rocks will be improved slightly. When Sikong Nan heard Futian say this, he revealed a strange expression. He said, If we can truly manage to do so, it will be more than just a slight improvement. Due to being a defensive matrix, the battle matrix of the rocks has always been lacking in offensive capabilities. If it is as you say, it will be a transformation. Its power will improve immensely. Maybe, said Futian. Renhuang Yi, are you confident in pulling it off? Asked Sikong Nan. I will try, replied Futian. All right. If that is the case, we will trouble you to do so, said Sikong Nan as he nodded his head. I will cultivate in the battle matrix secret zone paradise for a few days, said Futian as he headed towards the previous secret zone paradise. He then once again entered there to cultivate. Sikong Nan stood outside and watched as Futian walked inside. There was a look of anticipation in his eyes. If Futian could add an art of supreme attack to the battle matrix of the rocks, as he said, the overall ability of the Lost Clan would reach a whole new level. That way, in the current chaotic original realm, their ability to protect themselves would be higher. You're tuning into the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.